Okay, we're live. Welcome to the Circle Jerk. Myself, Masturbator. I don't have any witty line for me right now, but the other one we have is the best in the world, the salt of the earth, Natsu.
Well, aka Shazazzer man. Um,
Disaster.
yeah, you can call me Shazaz. Oh, you can call me Shaz if you want, or not to. It doesn't matter. But how are you guys?
Well, we're fine. I was supposed to start this sooner, but then some stuff I got caught up with some stuff, and I also had I did like two streams in a single month, so I was a bit worn out. I was like, no more streams. And
Wait,
then I was like catching up with the project. Go ahead.
how many hours of streaming did you do? Because it sounds like you did a lot of hours.
Oh, I did like two streams and like one. It wasn't set the programmer. I don't know if you were watching that, but I think one of them was like 4 hours,
Yeah.
and the other was around three. And there's a drama video that I'm making, and that's what. And I was kind of caught up with that
No,
for the
no,
most part.
yeah, no, that makes sense because stuff outside of Discord is also. I mean, Discord outside of social media is it's a bit rough because what people don't realize sometimes is that people that make content, they also have other stuff that goes on and that can hinder them from making content because you need the motivation to get on and continue making the stuff you make.
Yeah, true. And the other reason is like I also didn't get the time to do any of this, so it was multiple factors. But yeah, we're doing one now, much later than I had hoped to do. So we let's talk about AEW Revolution. And should we talk about the build up in brief, or should we just go with the?
I honestly think the build up is important to talk about as well before we get into like the whole meat potato because I'm gonna get ahead a little bit, but I think the matches in the pay-per-view were not terrible. I mean, if you were just to look at them as matches, they were not terrible. But
Yeah.
as a person who loves good build-ups before a fight, for me it wasn't enough. But yeah, we can talk about the build-ups.
Okay, so I mean, we'll talk about like each build up in every match because I don't like spoiler alert. I don't have too much bad to say about all the matches these days. Like as you said, like the pay per view itself is not terrible. It's just what led up to it, which is like the issue. What led up to it and what led afterward. But
Mm.
but like since we let's like the and there's not much in the pre-show either, except for the fact that what do you call it? They have this they had like two interviews. One is Renee. Renee, I call her Moxley good. Renee Young.
Yeah.
So I know her as Renee Young. I think she goes by Packet or something. But
Yeah.
it's John Moxley's wife, and the other one is some I don't know who he is, but apparently his shit is his whole cat is that he's gay, and he was like really simping for Adam Cole, and they were like devolving into a what do you call it, a comedy interview, which is a real shame because Adam Cole was cutting a really good promo.
Yeah.
But and then they had a 6-man tag match with Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers and some Mark Sterling guys, and it was a match, and Mark Briscoe won, and that is all the pre-show had.
Okay, so the thing is that when it comes to the pre-show itself, I didn't really watch the matches because I wasn't really interested in it. I actually never watched the pre-show when I watched the pay-per-view in the beginning, but then I went back to watch the pre-show. But that was simply because of the two people you just talked about, Renee Moxley Good and that other guy, a guy who acts kind of gay or something. I'm pretty sure he's not or any of that. It doesn't matter. But like he does some comedy skits in the back, right? I'm gonna be honest. I found that very cringe though. Like majority of what they were doing, because like it's like they're talking to the TV, but then they're also talking to the audience around the crowd. And all I did was like, for example, when they showed Renee, I was looking at the people in the back, and they were trying to get in the camera, and I was laughing at that. Yeah, like I found that presentation very weird.
And the other thing is like normally I don't look at pre-shows either,
Yeah.
but like because I record my stuff on TV, like I stuff my record like live on TV, and when I do that, and like and this is where like WWE is better, because when you do it with WWE, there are like two slots, the like pre-show and the one that is actually happening. AEW doesn't have that. So because I have to record stuff from 6:30 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
They've not only like in a single slot they record the entire pre-show and the main show, and that's what it leads to like 6:30 to 10:30 or 11 a.m. So it's really weird. But yeah, like the pre-shows has nothing to write home about, but it's like a weird segment. And that guy that's like trying to be gay, like he should really have a conversation with Goldust or Dustin Rhodes, because that is the exact same thing he used to do. A comedy character whose entire thing is being gay. Didn't he tell him how old that is these days? Especially if everyone's like progressive. I don't know.
No, I found it very odd. Like, I know he was trying to do some funny skits and stuff like that, but they all came off kind of awkward to me. Some of the wrestler interviews were interesting. I mean, Adam Cole doing that promo, like you said, was good, right? But this guy kind of ruined it, and then Adam Cole had to basically tell him like, "Bro, get off me." It made for an awkward thing. I didn't like the pre. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like the pre-show, and the only reason I went back to it is because I was watching a Cornette video, and Brian Last mentioned like how cringe it was, and I agree.
I mean, yeah, I was skipping for the most part, but I was like, man.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was like saying that I saw the Adam Cole thing, and I was like, okay, let's listen to him, because even though he has not wrestled much, he's not doing anything bad. So I was like starting to like him these days. I listened to him, and it's like, what a great promo. Why is this guy getting involved in this? So that's my issue.
Yeah, but that was a pre-show. I think we should move on to basically the build up to some of the matches that were happening. So what was the first match? It was Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho, right?
Yeah. And like I said, we'll talk about each match's build up when we're getting to like a single match. Yeah. So the first match we'll talk about the build up first, then to the main match, then the second match we'll talk about the build up first, etc., and so on. So the Ricky, and I was like completely worried, because like Ricky Starks, like post Full Gear, was like getting really over, and because he cut like a promo on MJF, which got him like instantly hot, and he had like a good match with MJF. Although there were some botches involved, it was still a relatively good match. And then like you were like, okay, so where do they go from here? Because Jericho is busy with Action and Ready. Turns out Jericho found a way to get Ricky Stark involved in his tangle of like into his web of Jericho, and the build up was terrible. It was comedy stuff with Jericho, and before I even talk about this, I don't like before AEW, the most hated wrestler like that's actually pretty good was Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar can do what he's told to do, and everything he does is great, but he's booked like this. Like he needs to have a title every day, which he disappears with for like months, and he's burying some people like Kofi Kingston and Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, and whoever. And you're like, man, like I was like, can we go like a single year without Brock holding a title? And now they're doing that. With Jericho, he's not holding a title. He held like one title, but he's wearing every single person ever. There is no reason for him to basically bury Eddie Kingston. There is no reason for him to like before that. Like he basically derailed MJF momentum, and now he's doing the same thing with Ricky Stark, and it was actually showing. Let's just talk about the whole thing with Revolution. Like Jericho worked with two guys, Action and Ready and Ricky Stark, and actually they've completely forgotten about Action and Ready, and Ricky Stark is just like people were not chanting for him as loud as they were when he was having a program with MJF. So I just saw it as a demotion. the feud itself was so fucking terrible. I don't know what to say about that, because not only was like Ricky Starks getting colder because he's involved with Jericho. The other issue is like what is the reason for Ricky Starks to face Jericho? He has to go through hoops just to beat a guy he's already beaten thrice. Sorry, not like he's already beaten twice. And it's such a weird build up. And like when people when he said, "Hey, I'm not getting involved with him anymore," people actually popped because they don't want to see Jericho. Even the AEW faithful don't want to see Jericho, and he just doesn't learn. He just doesn't learn, and I'm really starting. Like I've told you before, I really start to hate Jericho. He's buried every single person. So when he's facing Ricky Starks, I was actually worried because it would not end well with Ricky Starks. So I saw the match because Jericho won't let this guy beat him thrice now, but he did. But yeah, let's talk about the match now. You can go ahead first, or you can even talk about the build-up.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the build-up as well. I mean, I agree with you. Like, the build-up was horrible. I want to talk about like that whole. So they had a first match, and Stark won, right?
Yeah.
After Stark won, I saw. Okay, so let me go back a little bit more. So Ricky Starks, right? Is somebody that's very talented in AEW. He's somebody that I feel like has potential in being a big star, especially because he kind of looks like The Rock, and he also dresses well and stuff like that. He's doing all those things right, but it's just that his body shape doesn't look like a main eventer type to me. Like I think what holds him back is the fact that he kind of looks like a skinny version of The Rock or something. I'm not sure, but like he needs to bulk up more, in my opinion, to look a bit more serious, because he can, because like he has, because on his when he's doing a promo, he has a lot of charisma, and people actually listen to it. His exchange with MJF was like by far one of my favorite promos that he's ever done. So going from that to Jericho was easily a downgrade, and I always fear that. And plus, like early on, they used this new guy named Andrade, whatever his name is, Action Andrade. They used that guy, and Ricky Stark. So like this was all happening during the build. So they were like trying to develop two guys, Ricky Starks and Action Andrade. I found that very weird, and it made there was like some matches where Andrade looked better than Ricky Starks. So it's like like it made me think like what the heck is happening? Because when Jericho gets on you, it's not just Jericho; it's this whole Jericho society that gets on you, and you literally have to face like majority of them to basically get to Jericho. It's like Jericho is essentially doing what MJF has been doing, where he makes his opponents fight other opponents to get to him. But in Jericho's case, he has a whole faction for that. So that's the thing I really didn't like at all. And like just like you, I was a big fan of Jericho. In the past they had this tag team called Jerry Show. I really liked that. In WWE, whatever Jericho did was fantastic to me. Even though he was not always like the main eventer and stuff, but he was just there just to help out the talent in many ways. But in the AEW, he's considered to be like the Undertaker or something, and that's the thing I really don't like. Is like, he is allowed to book his own shows, book his own stuff and stuff. I know that, but I don't like the fact that Jericho is considered such a dominant force inside of AEW. And they're using him a lot because obviously he is like the biggest name in the show in like AEW right now. Outside of Punk, who's basically no longer there, but we're not going to talk about that. So when they did that whole Gallet match, right? And then I saw Ricky Stark lose it by Jericho. I was thinking that's it. There doesn't need to be a match in a pay-per-view. That's it. They're done. But then Ricky Starks, like you said, he did that whole promo thing where he was saying that like I'm done with Jericho, and then he all of a sudden comes out. Jericho all of a sudden comes out, and apparently Ricky Starks was trying to be smart to get Jericho to sign the paper and make sure that Jericho. What was it? Society or Jericho? It's a weird nerdy name. I know that. What JAS? Yeah, he was trying to make sure JAS doesn't interfere in their match, and now we're gonna get into the match itself.
Yeah, so the other thing is like when like that like another reason because like they said like appreciate the sort of the JAS like won't interfere and that felt like okay Jericho's winning because there's no way he let this guy beat him twice and then he's like not even trying to make this unprotectable because when like odds are stacked against Jericho that's when he always wins and that is the other issue is because
Hmm.
like yeah let's talk about the match because it's a shame I feel this way about Jericho and it's not just me like a lot of people don't want to see Jericho anymore these days it's a shame too because Jericho really put a lot of effort in this match and he really put a lot of effort he actually tried to help Ricky Starks he actually put on his working boots and had a good match with him in my opinion the second best match of the night the best match we'll talk about it later but he had like he basically took everything seriously. He never involved any of the shenanigans that he did, except for the end. But I blame more like Sammy Guevara than anyone else. And the one spot I didn't like, it was a back and forth. Jericho was working the ribs, I believe. Yeah, he was working the ribs, and he had he was actually like he and this like countered like to Ricky Stark's face with the code breaker was actually like pretty creative. I thought Randy Orton was able to do these things out of nowhere. And then you see, and then when they like did like the Judas elbow and Ricky Stark blocked it with one arm, that's where I was. So okay, there are two issues, but it was relatively a good match. But there were two issues. The one when he's like getting Sammy Guevara involved, and that's when we like listening, and then we were like, wait a minute, I thought they were not supposed to be involved. It's not like they stand in Jericho's corners. They basically go in the back, and then they come from the stage or whatever. So you're like, okay, so if they're not involved, then why are they coming? Like, couldn't they find any more creative way? But they wanted to get that out of the way. So it's all right. Sammy Guevara just completely sucks. He's running really slow. And instead of like getting like beaten up on the back, he had to get his stuff in with Action and Ready. They had to have this fight, which was really distracting. The second issue is when Jericho was like going with the Judas elbow and Ricky Stark blocked it with one arm, like it's a martial arts movie. It's first of all the his finisher sucks. He might as well just stick with the code breaker. At least that's better, and he can like use it in any other different form. The second thing is Jericho literally sucks at using the back elbow. There are wrestlers like Andrade, and like there are wrestlers like Andrade who can basically hit you, and it looks like it can actually finish you. But Jericho is so slow, and then and even like it's so slow. Most of the time, it doesn't even hit the guy, or it doesn't hit very hard to a point where you can actually believe it as a finisher. And then when you see Ricky Stark blocking it with one hand, as cool as it was, it just shows that how ineffective that move is. So I don't know why it's a super finisher for Jericho. The one end, like what they call it, the the move that ends all matches. And I don't know, Jericho needs to like come up with a new finisher or just stick to Codebreaker. But otherwise, a good match. And Ricky Starks won. I thought Ricky Starks would be like, okay, so Jericho's not going to let him beat him like 4 times in a row, so he's going to get his win back, but it didn't happen. So it's great. So yeah, good match. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you pretty much. But basically, I do want to add by saying that it was kind of weird to see like Ricky Starks have another thing on his stomach, like that. I think it was like a band on his stomach. Yeah. I found it weird that he had that, but it was like it was like something very small though. Like it wasn't like something big. It wasn't like covering majority of his stomach. It was like just something small and white around his stomach, which I found weird because normally when you have that on, that means you're injured, and and there's no way you're injured for like a little amount, like. Okay, the thing is, man, like the thing I don't like about AEW is the way they sell. like injuries. So if that dude's stomach is injured, right, he should be selling that stomach more. But in the match, he wasn't doing that a lot. Like, how am I supposed to get into a match if the selling isn't so good? Wardlow, like I'm going to mention Wardlow, but Wardlow was somebody that like had his knee hurt and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, and he came in a match and his leg was fine, like all of a sudden. So like it's like that. It's like if Ricky Stark's stomach is bad, right? He shouldn't be doing some moves that like suplexes and stuff like that, because that uses like your core strength and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I wish they sold more of their injuries than they do. So that was one issue I had, and another issue was definitely the Sammy Guevara thing. What the heck was that?
I don't know. And it's like he just like came me with this like tongue out, and like I'm really starting to hate Sammy Guevara. I've never thought like this guy would get over in two instances, one as a babyface and the other as a heel. And he just couldn't help himself. He doesn't know how psychology works. And it's like he's a babyface because he's doing stupid, like risky stuff, but he's a heel because he's sticking his tongue out and he's like an unbearable presence. So it's like he doesn't know what he wants to be. First, he's acting like he's like 2005 Edge, and then he's acting like he's Jeff Hardy, and it's like so weird.
It is weird, but like my issue with that is that okay, so they signed a paper where JAS was not supposed to interfere, but then you see Sammy Guevara trying to interfere all of a sudden. So like, what the heck was the point of that? And the only way this got stopped was because of Andrade. So I guess they wanted to give Andrade some shine. Well, I'm gonna be honest. Like, even though this is like a whole different topic, but Andrade's push has been horrible. Like, okay, he won against Jericho, but after that, he just kind of went away after getting a lot of push into this guy. Like, this is a new guy that not many people know, but he beat Jericho. Where like the world knows about Jericho, but nobody knows about him. So what did they do with him? Nothing. So so Sammy Guevara trying to interfere when they already signed papers that JS wasn't going to interfere was stupid to me. The match itself overall wasn't bad or anything. I did have an issue with Starks not trying to sell the injury that he had. Because I mean, I see no point of having that thing around his stomach if he's not going to sell the injury. And the Judas effect thing, yeah, I agree with that. That was weird. You know how Starks like just blocked it like a regular elbow. Like, it wasn't even a finisher; it was just a regular elbow. Like, the issue isn't that he stopped it like that. The issue is that there was no creative way of stopping that besides just holding it. You know, and I found that very weird. So yeah, the match was fine overall, other than that, but yeah, not my cup of tea. We can move on.
Like, and lastly, like I say, like you like they do it in martial arts film where they like block elbows and everything with the arms and stuff. But in those movies, you actually see them like actually training with those arms. Like they're basically getting hit with the stick and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have this like Bruce Lee. I don't know what it's called, but it's like the Wing Chun thing. It's like Ip Man, whatever. So they're basically training their arms. So when they like block a speeding back elbow, it actually makes sense because that's how they train their arm to be. But in this, like Ricky Starks is no martial artist, and this is not a kung fu movie. So it's like I don't understand why. And like it just shows how soft Jericho's finisher is, where you can block it with one arm. I don't know why nobody else tried that, and why is it even ending finishes?
I don't even know why that's a finisher though. It's just like a regular elbow that he's doing, right? It's not like he adds some intensity to it. You know, I think John Cena had a move similar to that he used, and he stopped using it as a finisher. I remember. Because
people started shitting on it because it like looked soft as hell. And then the other thing is another guy who used to do that, Andrade, the another Andrade, not Andretti.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the guy that fought Sammy Guevara and then got suspended, but he does it and it's like his stuff looks much better, but it's never a finisher. But sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like the Judas effect doesn't look that good at all. Like, First off, it's being done by a guy who should be retired by now. Like, I think Jericho would be a fantastic commentator. And yeah, it doesn't look that effective. But to give credit to Jericho though, when push comes to shove, right? He is capable of putting up a good match, even at this age. So I can give him credit for that. But I'm not a big fan of how he's being pushed in AEW though.
Yeah, I'm like less, what do you call it, angry at Jericho because he did put Ricky Starks over and he's not prolonging this feud, and he did put his working boots on. It's just he needs to retire, like, or at least go away for a long time. So, and it's like the fact that he has this group, he went from one group to another, and like this group he has in particular is like the worst group ever. I don't know why. Why is he going?
Sorry to cut you out. I think I know why the group is not good. It's because I think this group is exactly what it is. It's a appreciation society for Jericho. It's all about Jericho, right? So, I mean, I think that I get the idea that Jericho wanted to put a bunch of these talented guys that he felt were talented, right, into his group to make something out of them. But reality is that Sammy Guevara has zero mic skills. He can wrestle, sure. He can do some crazy spots, sure, right? He's not that good. All right, people hate him, but they hate him for other reasons. They're not wrestling reasons alone. All right, it's not just him sticking out his tongue or kissing his girlfriend or something. It's none of that. And then you got what's his name, man? Daniel Garcia. Yeah, he's another one that acts like he's like The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin or something. The guy has zero charisma. He's a charisma wagon, all right? He's not good at all. Like I don't really enjoy him at all. Like he just acts tough. It's like a little guy trying to act tough. Like I think of Tweety Bird when I look at him. And then yeah, you got oh my god, Jack Swagger. I think it's called Jake Hager, right?
I'm calling him Jack Swagger.
Yeah, Jack Swagger. Yeah. I look at my purple hat. I love my purple hat, bro. Like, shut the heck up.
He has no personality, and that's what and I was like when he like first joined AEW, I was like, why is he there? Because I knew how, because I saw him in WWE, and he wasn't really good in WWE, and then they were building him as this MMA guy, and they're like, you just stick to your MMA. Why are you like getting involved in this thing where he's trying to have a personality, and he's in this comedy group because Jericho's group is a comedy group. And then you said the purple hat thing. He has no personality to pull that off. He can't wrestle. He doesn't even have a facial expression. His best match was with John Moxley, and that was because Moxley was kind of good enough to have that kind of match with him. But other than that, I never understood his appeal. Why is he still here? He's like, he's a complete waste of money these days. And yeah, Daniel Garcia, you said he's like The Rock or Stone Cold. I just see him as this like Chris Benoit kind of guy, like a smaller wrestler, but he has like this like killer instincts to him, and he's like super serious. But Chris Benoit actually had like a physique. Even if he's small, he had like a physique that kind of complemented that. Daniel Garcia doesn't have any of that, but he comes across as this like dangerous wrestler. It's so weird. But I like Sammy Guevara. There's not much to say. He's really an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, Jack Swagger. The thing with him is that he's a great wrestler. I think he can wrestle well. Like he has to, he sells well. He wrestles well. His promos are still bad. I don't know. He just feels miscast. They just don't know what to do with him. I mean, he's like the big guy of the group, right? But in WWE, he wasn't even the biggest guy. That's the funny part. But he looks big compared to the other guys. But yeah, I think moving on to the next match. What was the next match?
Well, lastly, I was going to say like Jack Swagger legitimately is like a tough guy, and if he does like sticks to his legitimate, like not in wrestling, because wrestling also involves working, and he can't work. He can do the moves, but again, like what's the point of doing the moves when you don't know how to work? He doesn't know how to work. So my thing is like, if he just gets into the MMA thing, he's good because he actually is he's an actual wrestler. But if he gets involved in pro wrestling, he just sucks. But that's what I'm saying. He's a waste of money. Just get rid of him. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
the
always
whole
funny.
group sucks. But the next match was, I think, was it Elite versus House of Black, or
No, I
let
don't
me
think it
look.
was that. No, I think that came later.
It was. Let me see. It's been so long. I didn't even like look what happened. What? Okay, so this is the result. Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Christian Cage, and I like that. Like, besides the fact that it like the whole burial, like the buried alive match came out of nowhere. Okay, let's talk about the build up first, because like, so we remember when we thought like the whole Jungle Boy thing is over with, like, with his feud with Christian Cage,
Yep.
because he's injured and he beat Luchasaurus.
Hmm.
We thought it was over, but then we remembered that he didn't actually beat Christian Cage, so they wanted to have him beat Christian Cage. So after Christian Cage was okay, he had like a match with him. So like they had a feud, where Jungle Boy, who like talked about how he's in a dark place and everything, and and after everything Christian Cage did to him, he's going to really hurt Christian Cage. But when it came down, like when it was his time to do it, Jungle Boy was like too scared to do so. And it would have been fine if it wasn't such a like a heated blood feud that they were having. Like, why did you care? Like, why are you so afraid of hurting this guy when you've done this before in the 2021 full gear match where he basically did the concerto? So it's like, why are you afraid now? Especially to guy who's already like done way worse things to you than anyone else. He's insulted your father. He broke up your friend. He insulted your mother, your sister, and he like hurt you in multiple times. But you like, oh, I can't hurt him this badly. So Christian Cage carried this feud because he can talk, but this feud itself is like terrible. And I hope Christian Cage would go on to do bigger and better things, because this thing Jungle Boy didn't work. And they're pushing Jungle Boy as this like rising star, but it just doesn't click with me, because the besides the fact that he's booked terribly, he can't talk. And remember when I said like his sister has more emotions than he does?
You did. Yep.
So it's like I don't know, like his sister got the emotion part and he got the wrestling part, and I'm just like, this is so weird. No wonder his sister has to show up in his matches, because at least she's the one who's doing the emoting. He can't talk. The only thing he's good at is wrestling, and he is like a true baby face, but again, he needs to work on his promos and his emotions. How long will you get your sister to watch your matches? So it's I don't get. The feud was terrible, but at least they were getting to the man.
Okay. Well, I'm a big. Sorry. Are you done? Sorry. I just.
Yeah,
Started.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Christian Cage. Well, Christian. I'm gonna call him Christian because that's what I know him from. I'm a big fan of Captain Charisma and stuff. But the issue is that the guy that he was facing has little to no charisma and he can't speak. I see I see Jungle Boy improve in his mic skills, but he kind of looks like a watered down version of Christian for some reason. It's like Christian taught him how to talk, and he talks just like Christian to me, but without emotion, without any of the energy Christian has. Because I see him like looking at other people with his hands and stuff on his forehead, so I get that impression. But yeah, the build was not built. Okay, compared to other other rivalries in this whole pay-per-view, this was actually built up, but it was like something that was supposed to happen back in All Out, I think. So the thing is that I'm not a big fan of like how they restarted this thing, and that that Jungle Boy thing where he was trying to bury him alive but before the pay-per-view, like in the build-up.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just digging a grave, and I had a fear of like him showing his father or something. I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be scary. But
And
no, huh?
go in, go in,
Oh,
go in.
no, but to me it was like, dude, why are you doing something that Undertaker would do? You know, like you're not the Undertaker. You're not like it doesn't fit. Like I get it. The only reason he tried to fit it in is because they talked about his dead father. But does that mean that you take a grave for that reason alone? Like what? Yeah, but what were you saying?
Yeah, like murderous thing, which is like, yeah, that's a complete babyface move. But I was going to say that, like, because they saw him like burying his, like making a grave for Christian Cage, and like before that it was like supposed to be a no DQ match, and we'll get to the issue of that. But it wasn't like they said it was just a no DQ match, and when you like watching the show, they said, oh, it's a final burial match, and I'm like, wait, when did that happen? It wasn't told to us. When did they announce that? And I was like, did they just like saw Jungle Boy bury, basically dig a grave, and they're like, yeah, let's make a buried alive match ourselves. So the feud and the build up to this was terrible. And as you said, it was supposed to happen at Full Gear, and the only reason it happened because Jungle Boy never got to beat Christian Cage. But it's so like this whole feud is so disconnected. But the match itself was good, and Christian Cage can actually have one of those street fights, and they were fighting everywhere, which basically which basically shows how out of control this feud was. And Jungle Boy buried Christian, which is my like, okay, so I'll get my one issue was when like Jungle Boy basically did the concerto and he put Christian Cage in a coffin. My issue with that was he took too long to basically close the coffin, and then it fell, which I guess was by mistake, so I can forgive that. But I understand when you like got hit with a concerto, you're not waking up, but you still don't take too long to close the coffin. And that, I guess that was, I thought Christian Cage would find a way to screw Jungle Boy over, but it was Jungle Boy won the match, as he should, but he took too long to basically close the coffin on Christian Cage. But everything else is fine. It is probably the third best match I've seen, and we'll see how things get worse from here. But yeah, it was a good match. Finish was weird, but I can forgive it. What do you have to say?
The match itself wasn't set up that bad, but I just have zero emotion for Jungle Boy. That's the thing. Like I know he's a spot monkey. He can do some great spots, I guess. But when it comes to emotion, he wasn't really able to get me in. However, I'm a big fan of Christian. I don't know why I was calling him Chris Jericho, but Christian. I'm a big fan of Christian, and I think that Christian played his part very well. Although there was a spot in there where he had like a shovel. Like he had a shovel in his hand and he was on the ground, and then he actually just handed the shovel to Jungle Boy so he can choke him. Do that ad choke, whatever. I found that hard. I found that weird and stuff. But yeah, the match, like I'm gonna be honest, bro, like just like all the other matches, right? I wasn't feeling it too much because of the build. To me, it's really all about the build. If your build is horrible, right? The fight itself doesn't matter to me as much, because here's what I'm thinking is like, okay, they're doing like a buried alive match, right? And I get that, he talked about the father and stuff, and this is supposed to be personal, but for some reason this stopped because Christian had like some sort of injury that forced him not to come, right?
Yeah.
Well, they just restarted it, I think, a week before. And that isn't enough time for me to get invested to the point where I'm thinking that these guys need to go this far to end this thing. And did you see the ending where, like, when Christian was inside of the coffin, that coffin just got dumped down? Yeah, it just fell. It's like a game, a game show. Like it was like a game show ending. Like, found that funny. But yeah, like overall the match wasn't bad, but it wasn't like great. But
like the build up, as you said, like you brought up a good point. Like the build up to every match was like so terrible,
Yeah.
and it kind of hurts the match. Like let's look at Sammy Guevara, Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns from Elimination Chamber.
Uh-huh.
They've built up this feud, like not like it wasn't a feud, but they've built up this program for months, and it's still continuing. But they've built up this program for months, I think almost a year, and they basically got Sami Zayn over, and they already had Roman Reigns, who's like this unstoppable guy. And when they had that match in Canada, there was a point in time where you actually thought, holy shit, they're actually going to, like, there are certain points where you're so invested in that match that you didn't even care. They were just waiting for like the starting 10 minutes. And
Yep.
then you actually thought Sami Zayn was going to win.
Yeah.
And it was such a good match, but it was carried out, like it was carried by the build up. And this thing that Sami Zayn is going to have this Eddie Guerrero thing where he wins unexpectedly in his hometown, and people love that. And it didn't happen, which is, I'm fine with that decision. It shouldn't happen, but you actually thought it was going to happen. So if Sami Zayn won, people wouldn't mind that because they wanted Sami to win. With Jungle Boy and Christian Cage, they've done this program for a relatively long time too, but still, it's like, because the feud itself was banged up because of Christian's injury and other stupid shit that they've done in the booking, you can't get involved in too much. So yeah, it did hurt the match, but as a match itself, it was good. I think that's all I had to say. Other than, like, we know what Jungle Boy is going to do, and he's going to face MJF along with like 3 other guys. But
I think we'll
Go
talk
ahead.
about. I think we'll talk about that stuff like once we're done with the whole card. And,
Yeah,
like
okay.
we're gonna. I think we're gonna run through this card really fast too. All right. So what
Okay.
what was the next match?
The next match was, let me see. I think, okay, this, I'm 100% sure. So it was the EVPs versus the House of Black. I don't have much to say other than the fact that like it's the same match these two teams had. The feud was like just took place last minute, like just like 5 days beforehand, and it was a match which is like every other elite match. It didn't click with me. I think Aleister Black. I'll call him Aleister Black or Malika. I'll call either one of those names.
Yeah.
But he, like, it's such a weird thing because when he came in 2021, he was insanely over. People actually rooted for him, and his stuff was actually pretty good. And then when he started forming this group, it just fell like he's one of those guys that doesn't need a faction, but he has a faction, and I don't know why he's going with that. Because he's a great wrestler and he can get over on his own, but he suddenly wants this group with him, and it just doesn't work for me. Then they do this hokey Undertaker stuff, which makes this even worse. And especially at least in his feud with Cody, it was like a mental thing where people were straight up against Cody, and like Malika Black was using that against him. But here it's just, I don't know what's the purpose anymore. They're like, this team has cooled down significantly. Malika Black has cooled down significantly. There's nothing much I can say about the elite guys. Like, I guess I can say they're like a bunch of unprofessional people, but like they're overrated too. Like Kenny is overrated, but like if you have like a singles match with him, he's fine. And if he's in Japan and if he's told exactly what to do, he can have a good match like with Will Ospreay. But he wants to do this thing with the elite guys, and now they're in their own universe. And this whole tag team, like the 6-man tag team championship, is like completely pointless, and it's like a completely cold division. But yeah, like the match itself was the same as every other elite matches. But I saw the spot where like Nick Jackson was like flipping, and then he got caught in the Buddy Matthew knee. And I understand, like, you, like, obviously you had to like slow down your speed to get hit with the knee, but you don't have to do that spot regardless. And it just like overbooked, and they basically that's where like Revolution was basically taking a worse turn. But it was I didn't like that match because it's the same match, but and House of Black won, ended up winning, and I have nothing else to say.
I feel like the match itself was okay. So like the way I look at this match, right? If you're just a guy that loves to watch wrestling, if you're just somebody that loves to watch wrestling without any story behind it, you just love to see the athleticism of these wrestlers in action.
Mhm.
You're gonna probably love this a lot because the build was horrible, just like all the other builds in this whole pay-per-view. But this one was horrible, like very bad, like dog
Mhm.
water. So the thing is that people know both about both of these teams. They know about the House of Black. They know about the Elite. They know what sort of wrestling matches they do. So off of that, you can go off and say that they'll have a great match. Which for the people that love that stuff, for them it was a great match because they did all the stuff that they'd like to see, all that great mumbo jumbo stuff, right? So me personally, I didn't really like it. I'm actually bored of the Elite in general because they do the same spots in every match. I know what they're gonna do. They're just gonna do a lot of choreographed shit, and that to me is it's boring because if you just keep doing it over and over again, what's the point? Like do I think this is like a pay-per-view match? I don't think it is because they do this every week. Like, what makes it so unique? I don't know. But I do gotta say though, the House of Black did look very strong in this one. And them winning it was kind of a shocker to me because I was expecting the league to win.
Because how long has it been since they held the 6-man tag team championship? Sorry, I'm eating. Hold on.
You're good. You're good.
Like when was like they just won the 6-man tag belt and then they lost again. It's like, and it like of course the feud was terrible. It just happened like 5 days ago, and they were just depending. Yeah, it's a great match, so go ahead and watch it. But yeah, like what I thought they were going to win for sure, but they didn't, which is I don't know. I don't care. Even like whoever wins, I don't care.
I don't mind. I don't mind if they lost it like that, but I was expecting them to win because of like what they are, right? And also like I know their contracts are about to come to an end. I think it's Kenny Omega's that's about to come to an end or something. That's still a question mark. But overall, like I agree. Like the thing is, okay, so since they did that whole 7-match thing, right? The best of 7, that's the only time they looked relevant. But outside of that, they just look like weird old men that are acting like teenagers and acting like they're cool and stuff like that. They played that whole basketball gimmick for a while. So their title run was kind of like I don't know, not memorable at all. And I don't think like there's any trios team that made it memorable yet. The trios belt itself is horrible. Like why? Like you don't need a trios belt.
That's what I was like thinking. They ditched a good program with FTR, Young Bucks. I'm talking about. They ditched a good. Just a second.
I do want to say something though. Like I do think that by having trios and the regular tag team belts, you're kind of dividing the division of the tag team itself. So they don't have that many good tag teams at the moment. They don't have that many good factions at the moment. They have a lot of factions, but they're not good, right? So like it's so hard to book like trios and the regular tag teams and make them relevant because like look at what's happening with the tag team right now. We're gonna get to that eventually, but still, like the tag team is the tag team belts are are bad. Like if people think that WWE doesn't treat their tag team division well, AEW is treating it worse because they added trios now.
Well, that's what I was like going to say because like the ditched a program with FTR, Young Bucks, for a tag team like a 6-man tag, and all they've done is like way worse than just not doing a program with FTR because now they're like dividing the tag team to a point where like the tag team division, as you said, is like completely like terrible because there's no depth to it anymore.
No.
And there's a reason why you don't do that, because it just divides your tag team. And there's a reason why WWE shouldn't do that as well. The other issue is, and will people say, well, what about New Japan? They've done the same thing, but New Japan, if we're going to talk about New Japan does not treat its tag team like division very seriously. If you saw the whole thing, it's like only like two teams get to be pushed, and the other team basically join in and get a turn with the belt. But the issue, like New Japan, isn't that great either. So 6-man division is like the most worthless thing ever, and even the ratings shows because nobody wants to see a trios match.
Mhm.
But AEW, but I guess Young Bucks wanted to play with the friends. Of course, they created a 6-man tag belt, which is like completely dumb.
All right, before we get on to the next match, I do want to mention this. I think the reason they put these guys in factions, because you did bring up another point that I found interesting, where you said that Malkia Black, yeah, that guy, he doesn't need a faction; he has a faction, right? Well, I think the reason they do that is because Tony Khan has hired so many different wrestlers, right? To the point where they need something to do. So I think this is like one of his ways to make them relevant is by putting them in factions. And just like with everything else,
You got cut off.
Oh,
You got cut off. So can you like repeat your point?
yeah. Where was I the last time that you heard me?
You said I brought up an interesting point, and then you start getting cut off.
Okay, so yeah, you brought up an interesting point. You said something. You said like Malka Black. I can't say his name. I'm gonna call him Black. How about that? So yeah, M Black. I'm gonna call him M Black. So M Black. The thing is that he, like you said, that he has a faction, right? You said that he has a faction, and there's no need for him to have a faction. But I think the reason Tony Khan says that does that is because he wants like all these superstars that he basically bought to do something relevant. And by putting them together, because he's been buying a bunch of these guys. He's been hiring a bunch of these guys, right? Not buying. He's been hiring a bunch of these wrestlers from independents and WWE, right? That they need something to do. So the only way they can do something is by being part of a faction. So that way there's more of them on the screen. And I think that's the reason he does that. But just like with everything else, he overdoes it. Because like there's wrestlers that don't need a faction, but they have a faction because of how many people he hired. How about he stops hiring more people and focus on the current roster that he has? You know, I think he goes for like those cheap pops for no reason. Oh, like look, this wrestler that was never in AEW comes in here and does a match. He also does matches with like other promotions, like later this week. You're gonna hear about this other wrestler that's gonna face Kenny Omega. He, I don't know what his name is. I think he's like a White Kingo or something. I'm not sure. He's from AAA, but I never heard of this guy. I don't know who he is, but he's gonna come in and wrestle Kenny Omega. So you have a cold match that's like a dream match according to him. Like he's having other wrestlers come in that are not part of his company to wrestle. Well, bro, why don't you focus on the ones that you already have? That's why he's not able to build stars.
Like, why are you hiring like new people when you already have like people working with you in different promotions? Like, yeah. But like I didn't care about this match. I watched it, but I was getting really, really bored because of the same match. So moving on, the next match was, I think, let me see. Oh, okay. So it's the triple threat match with, what do you call it? Jamie Hayter, Soraya, and Ruby Soho. And all of these people have, like, except for Ruby Soho, they had their managers. You know, if I talk about their build-up, I will have to like talk about the issue the women's division has. And surprise, surprise, I don't think Soraya is terrible. I don't think she's a waste. Like, she's like a waste. Like, I don't think she's a waste. But the way they're handling her and this entire feud, like this entire women's division, it's so terrible. And this is why I kind of wish AEW didn't have a women's division, because they don't know what to do with it. Some of these people like shouldn't even be on TV, but they are. women's division, like like WWE had to have a depth in the women's division to be able to like do something with it. And they were taking a lot of guys from NXT. They were bringing some other guys that were used to be good and legends in the business to work in the whole thing. And WWE had to get a lot of actual female wrestlers to be able to have like a proper women's division. WWE, like AEW, doesn't have too many people. And we can talk about all the former champions, but how many of those are actually relevant? Nyla Rose, Riho, Hikaru Shida. There's like, even if you want to count those people, there's like 6 people, and the division just doesn't work. And now they're in this program where the women's division has never been colder. I think it's way colder than the 6-man tag team division. And the whole program is so fucking terrible that I'll rather talk about it when I'm done with the match, because it's like what, I'll save it for the state of AEW, which we'll segue into after the pay-per-view, because this whole program is so terrible that you can't just like talk about it. It will take a long time if I start talking about it right now. So they had like a three-way match, and people were rooting for Jamie Hayter. And you remember, I don't like when they had like a full gear match, we thought that Saraya was like way bloated because she hasn't wrestled for too long, but here she's fine. I think she's, what do you call it, she's getting used to the wrestling to a point where she didn't seem as tired, and she's doing much better than she was at full gear. But it was a terrible, it's not a good match either way. Then they had like a finish where Jamie Hayter out wrestled Ruby Soho, and then Ruby Soho basically ended up beating Saraya and Toni Storm out of the ring, and then she started beating Jamie Hayter, and now she's suddenly in the group. So why did she have to beat up Saraya if she was going to end up joining her? And then I don't know. Now Ruby Soho is a part of Saraya's group. Saraya? I think she said her name Saraya.
Yeah.
So she like with Saraya and Toni Storm, and now she's a heel. And then I think that's what happened. There's not much I can add. Like the whole thing is so confusing. You can continue.
Yeah, like overall, this we're talking about the women's match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, overall, the food, like, I mean, this whole thing is it's kind of messed up because of like the whole let's have these women wrestlers who are from WWE be part of a different faction. Like it's like a outcast, they call it. I think they call it the outcast now. Yeah. Let's make them have this faction that is made by people that are not from this company. I don't know. I find it weird. Like to me, it's like another obsession with WWE. Like, bro.
Yeah.
Can't you do something
Exactly.
inside AEW? Can't you do something inside of AEW? I don't know. Like I'm not a big fan of this whole concept of it. And I really don't care about any of these wrestlers, to be honest. Like you said, the women division is just so bad that it shouldn't exist, but it does because you gotta have women division because of diversity. So you still gotta have it, but it's like the way they handle it is so bad. Like if I was like a woman wrestling fan, I'd look at some of these wrestlers that have potential. Like I think Britt Baker has potential. I think Hayter has potential and stuff like that. But the rest of them just don't seem like they click very well, and they don't get that much time either. In my opinion, I think the women division of WWE is doing way better than them. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Like I didn't like this at all.
Well, like the one reason, like there are two actually, like there are two reasons, but one is like booked well. The other is like women, like AEW's women's division did have don't have a lot of depth. Like they have a lot of wrestlers in their show, but they don't have actual talent. Like WWE had like the four horsewomen, but they also balanced it out with Asuka, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss to some degree because she can talk, um, Bianca Belair, and it like you can name a lot of people that were actually that are actually pretty good, and they can carry this division. AEW has absolutely no one unless it's from except for Britt Baker and maybe Saraya. Who else do they have? And that's the reason it's like they don't have a lot of depth because WWE, even for WWE to do that, they had to get a lot of trained women from NXT to a point where NXT's women division was kind of in shambles for us for some time. But they had to get women from there into the division, and then they started like picking things up. AEW doesn't have that, and then there's the other issue: WWE female wrestlers are better trained and have more people telling them what to do than AEW wrestlers do. A lot of these people are not ready for television, so it derails the whole division firsthand. And that's what I'm talking about. Like WWE has a better division, but like I'm not saying I understand why AEW needed the females division, but if you're going to have that, you need to have a little bit of depth in it. You need to have a lot of proper professionals taking in charge, and you have to have people who can like book the whole female division. You don't just get it for the sake of having it, and that's my issue. But yeah, I'll like you touched on some of my issues with the women's division right now, but I'll talk about it later. So let's just move on, unless you want to have anything else to add.
No, I'd rather move on now.
Okay, so for all the stuff I was like saying about the females division, it's not the worst match because the worst match happened afterwards. Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley. To me, it's the worst match in this pay-per-view, and the worst match I've seen in months, maybe in years. And yeah, that's ironic because it got 5 stars or some like by Dave Meltzer. But that is the match that didn't deserve that, and I'll tell you why. The feud itself was terrible because this whole feud happened because of an accident by Jon Moxley. And then Jon Moxley, who got screwed by William Regal, couldn't get his revenge on William Regal because William Regal left. And then he started acting like a heel. And then it's like this weird thing with these are two baby faces. And Jon Moxley wasn't exactly committed to the heel route. He's just like trying to be like the Stone Cold Steve Austin guy. And Hangman Page is acting like how Hangman Page acts, and that is like a straight up pussy. So they're having this blood feud. Like two baby faces are having this blood feud over an accident. It wasn't too personal. And then and people will say, well, Hangman Page got a concussion and he couldn't remember his son, but it was an accident. And after the match, Jon Moxley kind of tried to put Hangman Page over. So why are they having this blood feud? And then it was like 3 matches that happened, and then Hangman Page was like, well, you don't want to win like this, so how about we have like a no rules match? And then they had a no rules match, and it like should we talk like we'll get to the major issue with this match, but it's another no DQ match, and it's like unlike Jungle Boy and Christian Cage, where the feud was at least personal. This one didn't need a no DQ match. I mean, it happened 3 times, but it didn't need to happen 3 times either. So why couldn't it just be a 2 out of 3 falls match? I mean, they were doing a multi-pin, I don't know. But couldn't be my issue is it's not a blood feud, even though they're trying to make it like one, and it just makes it just worse because Jungle Boy versus Christian Cage actually had a point, and that match makes this match more meaningless. And they were having this feud with Dark Orders involved, and Dark Order is sticking up for their friend, and Hangman Page doesn't want the Dark Order to what do you call it, stick up stick up for him. And then the other issue is, the last issue is, how can you buy John Moxley as a Stone Cold Steve Austin as badass when he's getting his ass beaten by Evil Uno or Pete Zero Uno, and he's having a competitive match, and he's bleeding every week. But yeah, this is supposed to be a match to be. But yeah, do you want to have anything else?
Honestly, I don't have much to add because like you actually nailed a lot of good things about it. Like I felt like the match was horrible. Like I don't know, man. It's like one of those memes of wrestling. Like if you wanna like show somebody how fake wrestling is, you should show them this match because there was like a lot of things set up in there, like the tables and stuff like that, just for them to play around and do whatever the heck they want with it. But the thing is that none of them were creative enough. You know, like I don't know why people like watching this stuff. Like just seeing a bunch of guys bleed to death in a match like this. And the funny thing is that once they were done with this whole match, right? A few days later, Moxley comes out as if nothing happened to him, and he wrestles a match.
And and then like before that, when like, because it was like a concussion, like what do you call it? Where basically, like at first John Moxley gave Hangman a concussion, and then he felt bad and tried to put him over. And then Hangman came back, had a second match with Moxley, and then he gave Moxley a concussion, and then he was feeling bad about it. And then the third match happened, which Moxley out wrestled, but it's like Hangman has not shown any kind of violent thought for this guy. But now he wants to have this, like, what do you call it? Yeah, like this death match with him. But yeah, like, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, so they had this big match where they were bleeding a lot and doing a lot of things to each other, but then a few days later, nothing happened. Like none of that happened, and then like what I'm saying is like the follow up after this match was actually even worse because if you thought this match was 5 stars, but then what happened after that kind of destroyed like everything they did in that match. Like if you thought this was like a match where they were ready to kill each other basically. People say that they delivered. I guess they did deliver, but but the match was garbage. It wasn't a match. Like there was no sense to it. There was no psychology behind it. Nothing.
They promised a garbage match and they delivered a garbage match.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they did. They just delivered a garbage match. That's basically it. And then and I bet you remember like Adam Page saying like he went to the dark place. He was talking to his wife too, by the way. He was talking to his wife, and he said that he went. I'm sorry, I heard you're a man like that, and I went to the dark place because I had to, stuff like that. Like that was so convoluted bullshit. Like, bro, just stop. And we thought we were done with them, but we're not. It's Adam Page and Moxley are still gonna be at each other's throat. So so this match did nothing for any of that. It didn't end anything. It's supposed to end something, but it didn't end anything. So what was the point of it?
And then in the middle of it, it's like high school drama with the Dark Order because they're now rethinking his friendship with Hangman Page. And then Hangman Page is like taking help from the EVP to help him fight the evil of John Moxley. It's so weird. And I guess John Moxley turned into a heel much later, but it's like before this match, there were 2 baby faces. And 2 of those were like really felt bad about giving each other concussions. And then they still want to have this death match, which obviously is going to make things worse for them. So it doesn't matter. As you said, they were trying to kill each other. And what warranted trying to kill each other? Because they were beating each other up beforehand? I don't know. It is, and let's get to the match. So Hangman Page came to this new theme just to show how dark of a place he is. And then he cut off John Moxley in his entrance. I think this is like the 3 times it happened. And what do you call it? And then they started like hitting each other with chairs, and John Moxley started stabbing him with the fork. And This is the most idiotic spot I've ever seen. Hangman Page wrapped himself in barbed wire, and it's a fake barbed wire because if it was a real barbed wire, it would kill him. So it was a fake. He put a fake barbed wire around his chest or around his stomach, and then he did a flying moonsault out from the top rope to the outside. And I'm like, so not only is it like a completely stupid spot, like is it supposed to hurt John Moxley because it seemed to hurt you more? He basically hurt himself for no reason. Why he couldn't just do a normal moonsault is completely beyond me. They had to make everything bloody. And then they started bleeding, which, even though it's a death match and they kind of promise that like bleeding is going to happen, it's like, why did they need to have this match? Especially when it kind of ruins the match that takes place afterwards. And they were like, oh. They started hitting each other, like Moxley started hitting him with the brick. And when you like hit someone with a brick, it actually kills you if you hit him hard enough. So it's like a fake brick too. And Moxley basically hit him with like Seth Rollins' curb stomp, and it was like what? And Hangman basically stood up, like it didn't affect him. And remember when like I don't know if you were watching WWE then, but remember when like Seth Rollins hit Dean Ambrose with a curb stomp on the break, and it actually put Dean Ambrose out of commission. But but Hangman Page basically stood up like he's like Superman. It didn't affect him. So why did this spot need to happen? Then he hit him with the DDT, like his dirty DDT, but it didn't do anything. And then Hangman Page hit him, I think, with the break in the face. And then he did and then basically Moxley flipped him off, and then he did a buckshot lariat, and then he like strangled Moxley to a point where Moxley had to tap. And Moxley tapping is like it never happened, so I guess it puts him over. But if you're trying to kill each other, why aren't you using firearms? Why couldn't you just like shoot someone? I mean, granted, you're actually trying to kill each other, but you're also trying to kill each other when you're hitting each other with a brick or trying to stab someone with a fork. I like this match. There's not much to say because I don't want to say it because it's really, really annoying me. It killed. If it was like the old times and like you see like the main event guys would have an issue with these people because they've done everything and they've left nothing for the main event. They've done the blood and then they've tried to kill each other for real. And if someone else loses for something less severe, it just makes them look weak. So I don't know why it got 5 stars. It should get the worst rated match of the year. And I was already not liking Adam Page, but this is where I was like, man, I can't stand Jon Moxley these days. He's just can't get out of his own way. He's bleeding every match. He's getting into these death match. He doesn't understand the issues of these kinds of matches. People are talking about he started drinking again, and it's a shame because I don't think he needs a rehabilitation center. I think he needs to be put in some institution because I think there's a bigger problem with him. He's hurting himself. I don't know, like he was in the Nick Gage, like what documentary? And Nick Gage talked about the kind of shit they were doing to each other. Moxley should have, like, especially after he went through a rehab, should take the whole thing he took from Nick Gage and stop doing like these death matches. But he doesn't understand. He's completely dumb. So I don't have any sympathy for him. I guess I'm done. This match was stupid, and it's hokey and it's phony. Like Seth Rollins should really excommunicate with Dean Ambrose. But you can continue now.
I'm gonna be honest though. Like out of the Shield personalities, I mean, I think Roman Reigns is on top. You got Seth Rollins in the second, and then very down below, very at the bottom, Dean Ambrose. Because actually, in my opinion, Dean Ambrose was a lot better than Moxley. I don't know. I just preferred him. This version of him is bad.
Go ahead.
But yeah, there isn't much for me to say about this match because I think what I wanted to say, I already said. Because and what you said was pretty much on point. So I'm ready for the next match.
But yeah, like the other lastly, I was going to say like at least, I guess besides except for the Looney Tunes stuff they were having Dean Ambrose to do. One like I guess like they were basically protecting him from himself because look at what he's doing now. Of course, they shouldn't be having these kinds of matches. And then the other, it's not about they're hurting each other, but they're making everything look hokey. And these hospitalization angles that could have been used, one of those actually was used on Dean Ambrose. They're now they're doing it for the sake of doing it. And lastly, I was just going to say this: the reason we all like Dean Ambrose more than John Moxley because Dean Ambrose still had that babyface thing going for him, and John Moxley, and then he had like good rivals to boot. Like he had Seth Rollins that he can work with, which actually puts basically does goodwill for him. But here he doesn't have anyone like that. So yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Worst match ever.
I didn't like it. 0 out of 10.
Minus 10 out of 10. But
let's go with that.
The second match was a toilet break match, and it's a shame too. They were having Samoa Joe versus Wardlow, and they completely messed this feud up because instead of this feud just being Wardlow versus Samoa Joe, they put Darby Allin in there, and Darby Allin basically took the TNT belt from Samoa Joe cleanly. Then the second match, Samoa Joe won the belt back. I think he held it for 2 weeks or so until Wardlow got it back from him, and it's a shame. It's a real shame because Samoa Joe is actually good, but he can't do anything because he's booked terribly. He's trying to make the most of what he's getting, but how can we care if he's losing? Like how was he supposed to be a threat to Wardlow when he's losing cleanly to Darby Allin, and then he got the belt back after a very competitive match. And then Wardlow, man, he's gotten cold. I've never... Like, it just keeps getting worse for him. Maybe things were better off him when it was in Double or Nothing in 2022. Because what has he done since? Nobody's reacting to him anymore. And they were more into Samoa Joe than they were with Wardlow. And then he's beaten down twice. He lost the belt. He got beaten the rematch, and then they're supposed to have another rematch for no reason. And it just happened. And what is there to say about the match? Other than the fact that Wardlow basically choked out Samoa Joe, which kind of hurt the main event because they've done the same thing the main event have done. And then if we're going to talk about the aftermath right now, what's the point of like Wardlow taking the belt from Samoa Joe when he's going to give the belt to Powerhouse Hobbs? Why couldn't Powerhouse Hobbs just take the belt from Samoa Joe? What is with the hot potato that they're doing with the TNT belt? It's like they haven't learned their lesson from 2022. But that's all I had to say.
Yeah, the match overall was all right. I guess like I'm not a big fan of Wardlow's new look. He basically lost the hair. The build-up was like it was horrible. Once again, under a horrible build-up. They tried to make a sense of the hair loss because like to him having more hair meant his way of remembering his father or something. So basically when Samoa Joe took the hair away, that's when Wardlow became more serious and stuff like that. But the issue is that they don't know how to book Wardlow. That's the problem. They don't know how to book a Wardlow, even though he is somebody that should be like a mega star of this company. Someone that you should build your company around because of the way he looks and stuff, right? The guy has loads of charisma by just being there, right? He's like an attraction if you think about it. You know, not more MJF in my opinion. This guy looks like an actual attraction to look at because of the way he's built.
Yeah.
So the problem is that they don't know how to book him. No matter how serious he becomes, he ends up getting shoved down because Tooney Khan just destroyed his push. If you look back, if you remember, like when he had food with I keep calling him food. Yeah, food. So he had like that rivalry with MJF. That rivalry is that it pushed him to a higher level, but since then he's been basically regressing, and not being the star that he's meant to be. At least not in this company, because Tooney Khan doesn't know how to book. He just doesn't know how to book stars like him. He knows how to book guys like Orange Cassidy and stuff, but he doesn't know how to book Wardlow. Unfortunately, the match itself was predictable. We knew that Samoa Joe was going to lose the belt. So, yeah, Wardlow won it. Now what? After he won it, I saw the press conference with him. He's like to Tony Khan, like, I want to do an open challenge every week.
Well, you can't do it anymore now because you lost the belt 2 days afterward.
Yeah, Wardlow was talking about like how he's going to become a bigger star from now on. Like he's going to, like his actual rise is going to be from now on, and blah blah blah. Right? Well, guess what? He had a rise, but then he had a fall after he lost to what's his name? Dude, I'm not gonna remember this. Yeah, but after he lost to Hobbs, right? Powerhouse Hobbs. After he lost to Powerhouse Hobbs, he had the fall. So like, what was the point of saying all that and then losing the belt the next day? And plus, what's worse is that, unfortunately, and this happened in real life, where his whole car, his whole truck, whatever, had everything he had stolen, like including his belt. So yeah, like, I don't know what to say besides the fact that he's like a meme of wrestling at this point. Like, he acts tough, but in reality, he gets shafted down like a fodder. So, yeah. What happened to him with Powerhouse Hobbs is like horrible, because QT came in and then he just like helped Hobbs and win the match, and yeah.
I'll get to the QT. Thank you. Sorry, talking to my sister. I was going to say that. Sorry, I was talking to my sister. I was going to say that. So like, yeah, like, I'll get to the QT thing later, but yeah, like, the other thing is, like, this shoot was supposed to be personal because Samoa Joe cut Wardlow's hand. Sorry, not hand. Sorry, not hand, but the hair. And you like, so this is like this has like all the making for a blood feud. Why isn't this a blood feud and John Moxley versus Hangman Page was? And like, even if it was a good feud, it wouldn't help because they already had a garbage match beforehand which people were reacting to. And by the time it was Samoa Joe's turn and Wardlow's turn, people were kind of tired, so they were not reacting to this. And it's really, really sad. So it's like, John Moxley versus Hangman Page really need to get removed from this. It really should have been removed. And it would have helped a lot other feuds much better. But the other thing is, like, we know like Wardlow was going to win, but we also know that like we also felt that Powerhouse Hobbs should not lose either. So they switched the belt from Samoa Joe to Wardlow, and then switched the belt from Wardlow to Powerhouse Hobbs. And imagine it this way. Let's like look at Goldberg right now. Why would can you imagine Goldberg like taking the US championship, then losing it, then got in a series of competitive cold matches with a bunch of job guys, and then he lost the belt to Kevin Nash, and then take the belt from Kevin Nash, and then he lost it to Scott Hall. And then he's like, and how are you supposed to believe him as a world champion? And that's what Wardlow is. And thank God that you didn't. So I'm going to bring up geekdom for a second. because he said something funny when Double or Nothing happened. So there was like a remember when like MJF, we all felt like MJF was not going to show up because he has issues with Tony Khan.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if like Geekdom was like talking about, then if MJF doesn't show up, then the logical step is to put Wardlow in a world championship match and have him be the world champion instead of CM Punk. So can you imagine if Wardlow was a world champion and he's involved in this series of cold feuds where he's not getting over these days? Not
Honestly, I can't do that because and I'm gonna say this about MJF as well, but Tony Khan doesn't also know how to book his champions. So
Yeah.
so it's like they go nowhere really. Like I'm gonna be very honest. We're gonna talk about MJF later, obviously. But I'm gonna be very honest. I think without the ex WWE guys that actually had something behind them, right? Like any star power, I don't think the champions actually hold anything, any interest in their matches. Like they don't, because Tony Khan is failing to build stars, especially like Wardlow. Like this is your star. This is a guy that you should be, like I said, building your company around and making him your mainstay superstar. But instead, what we get is that he just gets dished down further. Because like him winning against Samoa Joe, right, meant nothing because Samoa Joe lost to Darby Allin already.
Yeah.
So
and it's like they have not built the champion as a threat, they've not built a challenger as a threat. And then when the challenger became the champion, he's now losing the belt to another challenger. It's like they can't do any and there's more issues with that. Like you don't even like, let's look at Eddie Kingston, the guy who got himself over in his program with CM Punk, and then he got involved with Jericho, and then Jericho had to beat Eddie Kingston so he could have like a match with John Moxley for a world interim world championship. And what did it do to benefit Eddie Kingston? And then the other issue is, even before that, if you want to look at I shouldn't use the Acclaimed. There was another person. I'm forgetting his name. But like Sammy Guevara, granted Sammy Guevara kind of couldn't help himself, but you don't let Sammy Guevara get involved with his worst instincts. You had Sammy Guevara who got over as a babyface, then as a heel, and because he's an idiot and nobody's telling him what to do and what not to do, here he is. And even as a heel, it didn't help him because he was involved with Scorpio Sky, who is another heel. And then it not only like a program between two heels, they were hot potatoing the TNT championship to a point where you're not interested in that feud anymore as well. And that's what I was talking about. They can't build any stars, and it is so strange because they're doing this 4 pillars thing, and the only pillar that's actually doing well for himself is MJF. And MJF is not perfect either, and we'll get to the whole build up with that. But what has this? Tony Khan needs to step away from booking, and he's overcomplicating stuff to a point and that doesn't even need to be overcomplicated. And we can look from the Jericho feud with Ricky Starks. We can look to the Samoa Joe Wardlow feud. We can talk about the tag team division. We can talk about the women's division. This guy just he's a good promoter, but he needs to step away from the booking. Man, I'm going to say lastly, the QT Marshall thing. Before I do, do you have anything else to add before I move to the QT Marshall thing?
Nope, I don't.
So QT Marshall was involved in this issue with this Twitter user called Rajgiri, and Rajgiri basically made fun of the whole Wardlow Powerhouse Hoff program, and then QT Marshall was talking shit to Rajgiri and wanting to fight him for real or something like that. And Rajgiri was the only one who saying, "Hey, I didn't want to shit you on you. I'm just saying that whole program was terrible. It was my opinion." And then QT Marshall started shit talking him some more, and then he made a statement where, like, he made a statement there and he talked about how we doing this for you, so you shouldn't shit on our work. And I'm like, so you doing this for fans because those people actually paying, or actually are the reason why you're making this much money. So, and you telling us we can't have a right to an opinion. That's like saying that. That's like saying that we are not, like, let's say we're watching a movie, like we're spending our time watching a movie and we're spending money. We are not allowed to shit talk your movie because you doing this for us. That makes no sense. But anyways, but like QT Marshall has to be fucking involved because he's the. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, just to add to your point, I mean, I don't blame QT Marshall as much as the owner of this whole company, when he's basically claiming that a bunch of people that have negative opinions about AEW are just bots, you know? So if Tooney Khan is doing that, then, I mean, the QT works for him. So how can you expect him to be any different when it comes to criticism?
The issue is that QT Marshall should not be in television because he brings everything down. Yeah. He makes everything hokey and like nobody believes him. Nobody sees him as a threat or takes him seriously. And he's not good at being a comedy character either. Yeah. So why is he involved?
No, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that, you know, I'm talking about the whole criticism thing, right? Like how you said that, you know, how QT has an issue with the fact that someone else has a different opinion, like Raj, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, like, if you actually followed what Tooney Khan has said recently, and I'm going to read this tweet really quick. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I get to the part where I actually want to read it. He thinks there's a large part of bots, like anti bots for AEW, that are saying that a lot of his content is not good on Twitter.
Yes, we are bots too. It's in a program.
We are bots?
Apparently.
Yeah, but like, did you hear about this whole robot thing, like the bot thing?
I know this is like the second time he's done it, and like Tooney Khan, and you know I kind of feel bad for, like, he's a nice guy, but then have you seen before that what he was like saying to Ariel Havani, simply because he showed up on a WWE show? They said you're a fake journalist, and you're as much of a journalist as Tony Schiavone is.
I'm gonna read this to you. One of my favorite bits they do is when they claim they used to love AEW in old days, but not anymore. Yet when you dig into their old posts, there's nothing positive on AEW ever. Yes, I'm sure you all used to be great fans, despite no evidence of that whatsoever. So basically, he's talking about the bots. So like that's what I mean. It's like when you're an owner, when the owner of the company is doing this, I mean, I don't think his wrestlers will take criticism lightly either. They're gonna be defensive over it. And this is exactly why I feel like the content is the way it is because these guys are not willing to admit that there are flaws in their content.
And that's the issue. Like Tooney Khan has, I don't know, I think this whole thing is really starting to break him. And he wanted to control WWE too. And you know, like, he's doing too many things to a point when then like booking a show in itself is like stressful. But you're also promoting the show. Then you're also he's also has like these football teams that he's taking care of, and I think it's starting to break this guy. But he's like become like a complete parody of himself. Even there's like a troll account of Tooney Khan called Tooney Khan, like Tooney Khan, and he's a parody. Like he's like a parody of Tooney Khan, and he's like a childish version. Even he said that I can't do this anymore because he's actually out parodying me, the actual parody. So I don't know. It sets a bad precedent for Tony. Like, you should just step away, my guy.
Yeah, you should definitely step away because he has a lot of things going on already. So definitely. Like all of them are not working well, and that's the thing with him. It's like he overdoes everything. Like there's not less of anything. Like there's not less of blood, because like there's going back to Moxley. Moxley is known for bleeding all the time. Using the blade. Thankfully for the last 2 weeks he hasn't used the blade, but still, eventually you're going to see a bloody Moxley match for sure. You remember that promo he did before the whole the
About drinking blood.
yeah. He did he did a promo where he's bleeding and he's talking. It was hilarious. But I think we're getting off the rail here. We should get into the next match.
Yeah. Let's save a lot of those for the state of AEW. But yeah, the other thing is the what I think it's like we're down to like the second last match. So the second last match was the 4-way tag team championship match, but I was like, you know what, I'm so put off with it, I'm just going to fast forward because I can't take another multi-man match anymore. So they had like 8 people in the ring, and I kind of feel bad for Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Can you imagine Jeff Jarrett, a guy who would never ever appear in your favorite wrestler, is now one of the best wrestlers AEW has. In DNA, we were all upset about how overpushed he is because he's holding everyone else down. And one of those guys that suffered was Raven and Monty Python. And now he's here. And now you kind of feel bad for him because he's involved in a tag team match. And then Jay Lethal is a complete lost cause. He's the most talented wrestler to get buried the way he is. We have the Guns and the Acclaimed. The Guns are good, but they need experienced teams to work with. Same goes for Acclaim, and they're really over. But how can you these matches don't benefit the Acclaimed? And I think Brian last talked about how Acclaimed are talking about how over they are, which they need to stop doing that. And then there's Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. And I'm not going to talk about the match because again I couldn't care much about the match. But besides the fact that Orange Cassidy has become a old joke that wasn't funny to begin with, is he over now like he was in 2020? Do people actually still care about him? He holds the belt that nobody even cares about. Now it's the name change, but nobody cares about the belt. And they're putting, and nobody's reacting to him the way they were when he faced Pac. What has Orange Cassidy done to warrant this kind of push that he's getting? And do people even care? And why is he now consistently featured again?
He was
gone for a long time.
The funny thing is he's getting the John Cena, the Hulk Hogan push, basically. If you think about it.
Yeah.
He's been undefeated. Exactly. Yeah.
What is he going?
Yeah. Were you gonna say anything more about this tag match?
Yeah, lastly, I know people were liking Danhausen before he showed up in AEW, but why does it need to be in AEW? I've never seen his YouTube videos, but apparently he's this comedy guy. So why is this comedy guy in a wrestling match? And why is he
I think what you mean by that is why is he in a sports-oriented wrestling program, right?
Yeah,
that sports entertaining, isn't it?
But I don't think he's done anything to warrant that kind of he's just another guy that's getting paid for no reason. And do people even care about him in this ring? Because I don't think he's done anything.
Actually, he's a big merch seller, from what I heard.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Guns ended up winning, and they were calling themselves the best tag team in the world. And then here comes FTR, and I was worried that they're going to leave AEW, but they didn't.
Why were you worried?
Well, because I felt if they're gone, then there's no reason. One of the reasons I watch or catch up with AEW these days is simply because of these guys. Mm-hmm. And once they're gone, there's less people to be excited about because Punk's gone, FTR's gone. Who am I going to be excited for? Bryan Danielson. and like have they booked him terribly? So, and now he's gone too.
I totally get what you mean by that. But at the same time, I would like it if they leave AEW because the way they're booked in AEW is so bad. Like, I'm not a big fan of it because like outside of AEW, they're booked better than in AEW. So for me, I would be okay if they just like moved on from AEW and went to a promotion that actually respects them. Because the reason is because of the Bucks, right? Like the Bucks didn't make him feel welcomed here. Like I don't know. Like I just felt like there was competition with them.
And
But-
like, going.
Sorry, what were we gonna say?
I was going to say like, if FTR is back,
Mhm.
and they're still saying there's no confirmation if they're like re-signing with the contract.
Mhm.
I'll say that they should do like, even if they're like, I don't think they're not going to resign, but
Mhm.
if they're not doing that, then they should do the Cody thing with them. Just have them win the belts now. What do they have to do to basically get Tony Khan to say, yeah, let's give the belt to FTR? Just give them the belt. Have like, give people and all the FTR fans a moment, and then if you want to take the belts away from them after some time, after they have like a proper run, then go ahead. But just give them the belts at this point. It's ridiculous. They should have won the belts a long time ago, but they're not doing that, and now they should. It's getting ridiculous.
In matter of fact, they should have had the belt instead of the guns, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So the thing is, okay, so about the match itself, right? Like I feel like I watched the match, but I think the reason I was able to watch this match is because I didn't I watched like the Young Blood stuff. Yeah, Young Buck stuff. I watched it like a day before. Like I didn't watch it the same day. So that's why I was able to watch this multi match. Otherwise, like if I was to watch it like throughout the whole pay-per-view, I wouldn't be able to watch it because of how many matches that's already happened. You know, like almost every single match they do, it's like they try to make it as good as the main event. You know, like they try to outdo themselves a lot. So like the problem is that if you just keep keep doing like some great matches like throughout, right? It can kind of drain you, and it can kind of make like every match seem similar, because I've noticed like there's been a lot of spots that they do in every match now. like
yeah,
I see like a lot of common spots they do all the time. Like
and
the chopping is there all the time. Sorry,
go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, like you know, like the chopping is one of them.
Yeah.
Like them going off the ropes and doing some sort of moonsault or something like that. That's common. Everyone literally does that. There's a lot of samey spots that don't need to be in these matches. But the thing is that they have zero idea of how to keep the whole audience engaged and stuff by making the match different. Like every one of them needs to be a 5-star match. That's the problem. But yeah, go on. What were you saying?
Yeah, like I was going to say, because we're getting to the main event now. You brought up like a good point here. Like they have to like act like their match needs to be the best.
Yeah.
And like it's egregious right now because they're supposed to have a 1-hour Iron Man match, and these people are supposed to sit for this for 1 hour. And the other thing is, before that, they were having these like terrible, like not terrible pay-per-views, but like let's just look at 2 pay-per-views, Double or Nothing and All Out in 2022. Before we got to the main event between Punk, Moxley, or Punk or like Hangman, people were already getting tired because they were already having too many matches. Like, you know, like people are bound to get tired because when you're having like a 6-hour show, people will not be just sitting there. They'll eventually get tired. So when a guy like Punk, or MG, like more John Moxley, if they have like a match, people would not react to them as much as they would have if the show was a little shorter, and they would not have drained out. So AEW was smart enough to not put too many matches out, but they're doing a lot of stuff that they shouldn't do, especially when your stuff is killing what the match that's supposed to mean something would. and that segues us into the main event, a match between Bryan Danielson and MJF. And I'll be honest, I'm not too negative about their feud, except but I had like two major reasons as to why I didn't like it that much. The one reason is they're making this too much about William Regal, and the guy's gone, and I kind of wish he stayed for a little bit, but but he's gone, and then they're bringing him up over and over and over again. It's like the guy's gone, he's not even in here. Why are you bringing him up over and over? The second reason is MJF's promos. And I'll be honest, I always like MJF's promos, but this one didn't do it for me because he's constantly talking about his high school stuff. And maybe it's the fact that I'm hearing Critical Geek talk about this high school stuff, but when a grown man is talking about how cool he was in high school, it just kind of puts you off. And then he's like talking about how he framed one of his ex-girlfriends from high school and got her license suspended, and which actually got, like, the hilarious thing about that is, like, actual cops got involved with MJF. People actually reported him to the police. But he's constantly bringing up his high school, and then he's talking about his breakup with his... Go ahead.
So the cops actually got involved with this?
Yeah, like people, like MJF did a program where he talked about how he basically did an accident, and then he basically framed one of his, like, high school girlfriend. He basically put her in his place. Where he was sitting, he basically put her there to a point where people thought that she was the driver.
I actually thought, like, fans took this promo and then told the cops. My bad.
Oh, they did. That's what they did.
They did? Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What happened after? Like, I'm confused.
So people like MJ was like saying like, hey, this is not... we don't know like what happened, but like we know that cops were calling him, and MJ was saying...
that's funny. Sorry, continue.
MJ had to tell her, I'm not actually trying to actually did this. It was I'm a wrestler.
Yeah, okay. This is why it makes them look so stupid. I mean, to be honest, like, the fans are stupid for telling the cops about this too, because this is a promo for sure. But why say something like that in this society? People are like very sensitive to that stuff. So why say it?
Yeah, like he's trying to say how he's like a devil, but it's like you really have to talk about the stuff from high school. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but go on. Sorry.
But like he besides that, like then he started talking about his fiance and how she broke up with him, and she was the only good thing in the world, and he's really upset with Bryan Danielson because Bryan Danielson is taking this for granted. And like this guy's entire shtick is like he's like a smart ass heel, and his entire thing is basically pissing off people. So when he's like screaming, and then when he's talking about high school stuff, or when he's like being sympathetic, it just didn't work. And the third reason is by the time they're having this match, Bryan Danielson was already beaten down enough to a point where you can't possibly think he was going to win. He made you believe he was, but you can't possibly think that because, like, he's beaten twice by Jon Moxley. He's beaten twice by Jericho. He's lost every pay-per-view match from 2022 leading up to this, and he lost this one too. He's never been and then he's involved in this like group of Blackpool Combat Club where he's the background guy and Jon Moxley is the main guy. Even though this whole group was even though this whole group from a kayfabe standpoint was his idea, his entire thing, he's a good wrestler, but like, how can you believe in a good wrestler anymore? Like, he needs to have some credibility, and he didn't. He cut a really good promo on MJF before the Revolution pay-per-view, but and he got he got his fair share of wins leading up to that like pay-per-view, but I felt like he needs to beat some guys that he already has beaten him, like Chris Jericho. You can't tell me MJF would pay Chris Jericho to basically take care of Bryan Danielson. or he could try to seduce John Moxley to give him a title shot if he beats down Bryan Danielson. Like, he needs to beat the guys that have beaten him instead of beating up guys that were never even featured on TV. Like, this luchador guy, what was his name?
Bandito.
Bandido.
Yeah.
And Roosh.
Yeah.
And Konosuke take a shit.
That name, man, it's so funny.
So, he's like Bryan Danielson needs to have a better credibility. Not only he should be losing all these matches beforehand,
Yeah.
but needs to be taking his wins back from the people who've actually beaten him. And then MJF was trying to be sympathetic, which didn't work for him, and here we are. Now, and this is the first match they had, and it's an Iron Man match. So yeah.
Yeah, why not go all out in your first match, all right? So overall, like, the build was horrible in my opinion. It was like going all over the place for me. Early on, it was like MJF trying to do the same thing that he makes other wrestlers do, is make them compete in different matches so that they're ready for him. Apparently, they brought in the rankings, but the rankings don't matter anymore because there's no rankings anymore.
Yeah.
And then once we saw these series of matches of like 15-minute matches of Bryan Danielson, sorry about that. Like, in my opinion, they were skippable at some point because like I got sick of watching Bryan Danielson actually wrestle because he was like giving 15-minute matches with wrestlers that don't even deserve it, wrestlers that don't even that are not even on the card as much, right? They have zero build. Like, if these were wrestlers, let's say, that had any sort of connection to Daniel Bryanson, right? Then it would make sense. Like, if they had any sort of connection in his past rivalries and stuff like that. But these were just like different wrestlers. I know that Daniel Bryanson is I keep calling him Daniel Bryanson. Bryan Danielson is almost done with AEW, basically wrestling. You know, I think next year is going to be basically the last year. So he's trying to get in some matches with other wrestlers, but still, like, for me, it was kind of weird, and especially with when he was going on a losing streak before he came into this whole rivalry. So it's like I don't know, like I'm not a big fan of just all of a sudden making this guy a real threat when he was not a real threat. He lost to Sammy Guevara out of all people, you know. So it's like, you know, it's been done before. So what is MJF going to gain just by beating this guy? Is he going to be considered the best wrestler in the world? Well, in that case, Sammy Guevara is the best wrestler in the world because he beat the best wrestler in the world.
Chris Jericho is the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Jericho beat him, so he's the best wrestler in the world. So he's not going to gain anything special off of this, right? But apparently, that's what this was about. And as the matches were going on, like, you could see that MJF was starting to get serious out of nowhere, and just, you know, you could see his facials getting so intense and scared, and, you know, he started looking like a brat to me because, like, a brat that MJF looked like a grown child. All right, he looked like a grown child that had something with him, and he couldn't let that go. Like, he couldn't like that thing that he has in his hand go. He didn't want to give it away. So it's like, you know how a child has like a candy in his hand, right? The child has a candy, and the child doesn't want to give the candy to the other person. Like, they don't want to share that candy with the other person. It was like that to me. Like, he looked like a crybaby, you know. So I didn't get it. Like, in the beginning, they were trying to make Daniel Bryanson or Bryan Danielson like the underdog, right? But then all of a sudden, it's like MJF is one of them. Like, MJF has to prove himself because of this 1 hour Iron Man match. They built that up. However, like, the promos and stuff like that were just all over the place to me. It didn't. The build was horrible. Like, it had a build. This is like the only rivalry that actually had a build, but the build was not that good. But when it comes to the match itself, and I believe you talked about the match, right?
I was just going to say this before we get to the match. Is like if they built up Bryan Danielson, or like even just acknowledge the fact that he didn't have like a good thing going before this. Like MJF's entire point of the thing is, you're talking about an Iron Man match, but you're losing to people before the even like before an hour even passes. So and Bryan Danielson can talk about how he needs to win this match to like you basically believe that he still got it or he's still the best in the world, and like some stuff like that, like his booking prior hand needs to be acknowledged before it. But yeah, like they made MJF into a sympathetic heel that nobody is sympathizing for. And then they had Bryan Danielson who's acting like, yeah, I'll beat you because you can't go for an hour with me. I mean, yeah, but MJ is the world champion and you lost like your 2 attempts at being a world champion. So this needs to be acknowledged.
I'm gonna add something to that right now. I mean, if you look at MJF's whole body, right? The body shape that he has, he's built now, right? He built himself up. Like definitely he worked out and he put himself in the best shape of his life. You're telling me this guy can't go 1 hour in an Iron Man match? What the heck? And also, like they mentioned, like how he broke up with his fiance, which was real, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know how to feel about that because, like, why is the heel saying that? like I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about that. And also, you do you remember like I think it was his name was Chris Angels or something. I'm not sure. That Angels guy. The winging.
Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, Christopher. Yeah, thank you. You remember how he mentioned how he put down the AEW championship because Danielson has won like a better championship, which is the WWE one. So it's like they pretty much shit. I'm sorry if I'm swearing here, but they pretty much shit on the AEW championship by saying that. And I think and it's really true though. Like Danielson has won a better championship. He's main evented WrestleMania. You know, so for me, him winning the AEW championship is like something that I don't care about because he's already won the bigger one. So
go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, like for me, him winning the AEW championship wouldn't matter because he already won the big one, right? I do think that he deserves to win an AEW championship because if you're not gonna make this guy, if you're gonna keep calling him the best wrestler in the world and not make him win a championship, the big one, then what the heck is the point of saying that? Oh, just because he can do great wrestling matches? Who cares about that? This is fake.
True.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say like that's like a nice comparison between like Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns, and I think these two matches. I think Bryan Danielson and MJF had a better match as a match, but Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns had a better build-up, and that is because nobody believed in Sami Zayn. Nobody thought he was going to win, and then he kind of made people think he was going to win, and even Sami Zayn was not sure that he was going to beat Roman Reigns. And that's how they've carried this. That's what how you build up a underdog babyface. You made people believe he's going to win when the prior expectations are that he won't. With MJ versus Bryan Danielson, except for the match itself, you would never ever think that Bryan Danielson's winning. It was just to showcase how MJF can go 1 hour with Bryan Danielson, and that was it. And that's my issue. It's like they need to build Bryan Danielson up as an underdog, where they talk about his past failing, to a point where it's up to Bryan Danielson to prove to MJF instead of the other way around.
Okay, so sorry.
Go ahead. That's what I've done.
Okay, so I know you keep bringing up like Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn and stuff like that, and you said that it was like a better match. I don't think I disagree with that. No, you said that this match is better than that one. I disagree with that. Because I mean, when we talk about the match, I'm going to tell you what issues I actually had with it. But Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns is an example of how you don't need a great you don't need like a great looking match when you got a great build, because for the first 5 or 7 minutes they were just standing there staring at each other. While the crowd was going wild, right? And then when they did like a wrist hold or whatever, that's when the crowd erupted. The reason is because the build-up was so good. right? And that match itself wasn't a 1 hour match. It was basically a perfect match that told a perfect story, and that's what I prefer. It's like, because I know wrestling is not a real combat sport. I mean, it is a combat. I guess it is a combat sport, or whatever. But wrestling is rehearsed, right? I know that it's rehearsed. So for me, I think story matters more than the match itself. Like, I mean, the story makes the match. That's what I think. To me, the story makes the match, and I feel like they played to their story to perfection in that match. Whereas in MJF versus Danielson, when we're going to talk about it, I feel like there were some parts in there that were just pointless.
I was going to say, like, as I said, like, I mean, I was going to say, like, when I said, like, Bryan Danielson with MJF is a better match, I meant, like, match as a match itself in terms of, like, in-ring quality. Because these two are, like, really good at what they do. And the only thing that kind of inhibited that was, like, the build-up to this whole program. But, yeah, like, and Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns flourished because of the build-up. And because of that, they were telling a better story. But in here, like, as in the match, they were telling a good story too. Mm-hmm. But the build-up was so bad that it just came from a left field. But yeah, let's get to the match. They were doing the go ahead.
Yeah, let's get to the match. Sorry, my bad.
Like they were doing they were doing this like chain wrestling, and people were like popping, and that's what I thought. I thought people would start getting tired now, but they were biting everything MJF and Bryan Danielson were doing. They took their sweet time wrestling, and then like when Bryan Danielson when Bryan Danielson had the first fall, it took quite a They had a great match before Bryan Danielson got his one fall, like his first fall. And then MJF did the disqualification thing, which is, I guess it works here, but they've done this too many times where it's getting overdone. But I can forgive it because it works here. He basically pinned Bryan Danielson twice.
That was bullshit.
And
sorry.
Then they did this too many times to a point where I was like, man, they shouldn't have done that. But at least I can forgive that.
Nice.
Then they were having a bet, they had a spot with MJF like falling, like what do you call it? They had the spot where MJF like basically did the elbow drop from out to the outside on a table. Then he did and then they hit like Bryan Danielson on a tombstone, and then he covered him for the third fall. Mm-hmm. The third, and then Bryan Danielson basically got his third fall by giving MJF the Regal stretch, which is, if you're going to incorporate Regal into it, then I guess it works. It's a nice subtle reference. And before, because so the one thing I liked about this match is that it went for an hour, but it didn't feel to me like it was going for an hour. And people were biting into everything these two were doing. And people, that's when I was starting to believe that maybe Bryan Danielson would win. And then what they did was, and then they went for an hour, once the hour was ending, I thought, you know what, this might be the way to protect Bryan Danielson. Have him go the distance with MJF. And MJF already proven he can go the distance. Just leave it off there. But people were kind of saying bullshit and needs to have a 1 more minute or something. Then they had a sudden death match, and MJF basically, and before that, what I liked about the whole thing is MJF wasn't really going the distance because he was drinking water, even though the commentary was pointing out that he shouldn't be drinking water because it would make you even more tired. And then after the match was over, he was having an oxygen tank, which he used to basically win. And after the match was over, I actually liked this match. After the match was over, Bryan Danielson tapped. I was like, man, Bryan Danielson tapped, but he needed this kind of match, but the build up and didn't help him. And at this point, they've given a reason why he tapped to his own finisher, but it would have helped if you didn't see that the same thing with Wardlow and Samoa Joe. And then they were having blood, but it also is completely negated by the fact that Moxley and Hangman Page have done it. So I don't. These were I had like these very small cries, but this was one of the best Iron Man matches I've seen.
Overall, the match itself was okay. It wasn't like I don't consider it the best ever. I mean maybe okay. I haven't watched enough Iron Man matches. Like I don't remember enough Iron Man matches to compare to, right? But I'm gonna look at it as a match itself, right? I know
Yeah.
it was supposed to be. I know it's supposed to be like a 1 hour long match, so they couldn't just be going in high speed right away, right? So early on, like you saw MJF trying to avoid Danielson. And one of the things he did that I really didn't like was when he went inside the crowd, and then he threw something at a child. Oh, no, actually it was called a Tranquila, or something like
Tequila.
that. Yeah. So
Sorry to cut you off, but like, why was the woman drinking a tequila in front of a 2-year-old or 5-year-old son? But go ahead.
The way I look at it is that I think any parent like is gonna drink something regardless. Like the kid could think it's just a regular Pepsi or some sort of pop or something. I'm not sure, but like I have zero issues with that, because the reason I have a zero issue with that is because that's an adult that's drinking that. That's not a child that's drinking that. And people wouldn't be even saying this if MJF didn't throw that thing on the child. So I think it's perfectly fine. I don't blame her for that. But the thing is that I didn't like the fact that he just went inside the crowd and then he started throwing stuff at them, like whatever they bought. Like unless there was like a plant or something somewhere, like that's fine. If it was like somebody that was hired to be there and then get abused like that, that's fine. But to throw that on a child during the match, in matter of fact, I think that is like the thing that was talked about more than the match itself. And that kind of degraded the match for me. Like he didn't need to do any of that. And I'm not a big fan of MJF these days because he does a lot to get cheap heat. Because people want to cheer for him because MJF is so great in this horrible product. So I didn't like that. And I think it was what? It took him like at least 30 minutes or something like that. Around 30 minutes or 27 minutes to get the first pinfall. And it was Daniel Bryan who actually got it. I'm going to call him whatever, man. I don't care at this point. And then the two pinfall thing, right? After MJF got one pinfall. Oh, and it was after he did like a low blow. MJF did like a low blow and then he got two pinfalls after that. That's was bullshit. Like, I know that wasn't against the rules because they were never gonna have breaks between it, right? But still, that was bullshit. Like, he just got two easy pinfalls. That made pinfalls look dumb. Like, hey, look, I can easily get 2 wins off of this. Easy. Just do a low blow.
Just to add to your point, because like if he did like a low blow and then the roll up in, you can buy that because when you roll up, you're like struggling because you're put in a position where you can't kick out. Yeah. But then after so if he gets a pin after that, okay. Yeah. But then he shouldn't just like follow up with another normal pinfall where a guy can easily kick out. He could have basically did the tombstone or something, but basically did a wrestling move on him instead of another pin. So I understand the issue, but. And the other thing is it's overdone. Like Sammy Guevara has done it on Bryan Danielson, and then Lesnar has done it on Kurt Angle, and then Dolph Ziggler has done it on Seth Rollins. It's like you need to stop with that.
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to do those double pins. And the reason I had also an issue with it is because they were just trying to get the numbers to be the same. Because once so Daniel Bryan already had like he already had one. He already had one win, right? So after the low blow, Daniel Bryan got another one. So that makes him have two wins, 2 pins, right? Yeah. So then, just to make it even, and he made it even so easily too. Was just get 2 pinfalls. Like, that's it. He just pinned him twice, and he caught up easily. So it's not like we were like in that position where we thought that MJF cannot make it can I get that one pinfall? Like they could have added drama for him to get that one pin to even it out, and then try to go for another pin. But they did none of that. So the match itself, I can see why for some people that this was like this didn't feel like a 1 hour one. It felt like something very quick because you were entertained because of the different things they did, especially like how MJF kept drinking water. I was like, bruh. And then what you call it? What was his name? Taz. He kept saying that he shouldn't be drinking so much water because that's bad for him and stuff like that. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And then the bleeding happened, right? Oh yeah, you gotta definitely add bleeding to it. I was like, bro, we already seen this. We saw two wrestlers bleed so much. So what the heck is the point of that? So yeah, like I gotta admit, the last few minutes, right, when Daniel Bryan had MJF in a submission hold, that was entertaining. Like, was MJF gonna tap or not within those few seconds? That was entertaining. But yeah, I didn't like how you spent 1 hour watching a match and it ended in a draw, only to go to sudden death. And yeah, I didn't like that, and I felt like there were some times where Danielson should have won in that match, and he didn't win. I believe he did. Danielson did his finisher on MJF, and MJF just kicked out. And this is after going through 1 hour of Iron Man match and bleeding the heck out. He was bleeding a lot. So yeah, like I don't know. I found that bullshit.
Well, I was going to there's three things I should say but I'll start with the whole going overtime. I wish if they just did ended it with the 1 hour Iron Man, like the time limit draw. At the very least, it wouldn't it wouldn't have been preferable because they wanted to win it. But at the very least, this would have gotten in Bryan Danielson, at least an out, and he got an out anyways. But this wouldn't be yet another world title match that he lost, because it was the third time he lost. The second issue I had is what do you call it? Once they Bryan Danielson should not be submitting to his own finisher. If he got hit with the oxygen tank, that's when he should be pinned. And Bryan Danielson did a nice job covering it up, where he talked about how he was losing the feeling in his arm, and he cared much spending time with his family more than this. So he was really emotional about that. But my issue is they've done this with Samoa Joe, where he got passed out by his own finisher, and it's if they didn't do that there, this would have benefited MJF a lot. Then the third-ish thing I had is they shouldn't have done John Moxley with his Hangman Page, because if they didn't do that, the bleeding would have meant a lot more here.
Yeah.
But I didn't take an issue with the tequila thing. I was going to say when my father was drinking, he doesn't drink around us. He basically drinks in secret, and then when he's drunk, I found out, oh, you drunk. We ended up drinking. But
no, the issue I have is not that he just threw a tequila, right? It's the fact that he threw it on a kid that is not even a wrestler.
But I was going. I know. I was going to say that when I said why is the mother drinking the tequila around her kid? I was like, my father is a complete drunk bastard, but he's never. At least he had the decency not to drink it around us, but not this lady. But I was going to say, I don't mind the whole MJ throwing something at a kid, because that for me enhances the match, because that was where people wanted Bryan Danielson to win, and that was when that kid definitely wanted Bryan Danielson to win. So I see the issue where you drink especially when you throwing a tequila at a kid, that thing would burn at you. But
no, but here's the thing: MJF could have done so many different things just to get heat. If your thing is that he should have got heat, no, by throwing it at the kid, he got more heat. I mean, he could do so many different things inside of that. He doesn't need to throw something at a kid who's basically harmless and stuff like that. I don't know. To me, it just feels like cheap heat, extreme cheap heat, and I'm not a big fan of cheap heat like that. And I don't care if the drink is water or anything. I have an issue with the fact that he threw something at the kid.
I know, like your issue is like they're like you're basically hurting a kid, but I'm like talking about like because like they've done the same thing with Sasha Banks and the like like Bailey and Sasha Banks and the Iron Man match, and Sasha Banks made this kid cry, and like that's when people were starting rooting for Bailey, like just beat this bitch up, and that's what I was like saying. Like I've seen this before, although not to as much of a degree as like throwing water or like a drink at a kid, but yeah.
No, yeah, like you don't need to do that because they're there to watch them. Like if I was the mother of I'm never gonna be a mother, I'm a guy. But if I was the father standing there and I saw my kid get water or something else thrown on in his face, right? I'd be pissed. I'd want to beat this guy up. Like I don't care if he's a wrestler.
The other thing I can add to your point is like you would not be paying attention to the match, then you would be trying to calm your kid down.
Exactly,
and the kid would not be paying attention either.
Exactly, because no matter what this woman was doing, I don't care because like that's her decision, her life, right? But I'm not a big fan of a wrestler just going inside the crowd and just throwing something at a child. At least, that there should be some sort of human decency for that. Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of the mother right now, and thinking that that was out of line. I don't care if it's a big wrestler or something. I know his kids. I know his friends will be talking about it. They give him a moment and stuff like that. I heard like the opposite argument already, but I just think that this is poor stuff from a professional wrestler who is supposed to be making a lot of money off of this. Although they did actually make the kid feel better after, give him a free ticket so he can go to another event. But still, I don't think that was a necessary thing for the match. It didn't need to be there. Can it like the build was already bad, right? So will it make it better by just him throwing something at a kid? No.
Yeah, well, I see your point. I just didn't mind it, but it's like But there's one thing I should say is like, if you're trying to present yourself as a sympathetic guy, then you shouldn't throw something at a kid, because then it's like completely disconnected from what you're doing. But I don't know.
No, but that's totally fine. I can understand. Like if you didn't mind it, that's fine. Like like I've seen other people say that they don't mind it either. But for me, it's just like it's not necessary. Like he could do so many different things.
It's off-putting here. I see that.
Yeah. But moving on. We were going to talk about like the aftermath or something.
Yeah. So the aftermath is like not much happened. Bryan Danielson was like taking a break, and it's yet another good wrestler that deserves a lot better than what he's got, and he's leaving at least for some time. And a lot of this can be blamed on Danielson because he's just going along with it and he doesn't want the world title. But sometimes you have to, like, remember that you're a star, and this company needs you. So if this was the kind of match MJF had at Full Gear with Bryan Danielson as a champion, I would have not taken an issue. But Bryan Danielson doesn't want to be a world champion, and Tooney Khan is not at all wants Daniel Bryanson to remember that he's a star. He's one of the biggest signings besides CM Punk. He just came here after main eventing WrestleMania, and he's like yet another guy here. So I'm kind of not happy with Bryan Danielson's booking. And if this is the kind of match Bryan Danielson needed, but he should have had some kind of credibility. The other thing I had but he covered he's gone. MJF is now in a program with the 4 pillars. Sammy Guevara is one of them. Darby Allin and Jungle Boy. Then it's like, do we need a 4-way for a pay-per-view match? Because I felt like it's going to go to a pay-per-view.
Okay, let's stop there really quick. So we could talk about last week's Dynamite really quick. So MJF. Okay, let's be honest. Like the show that happened after Revolution was not good. Okay, and I'm not saying this was any better, but this is where MJF came in because he was celebrating his birthday, I think. Right. So, while he was celebrating his birthday, we all knew that there was somebody that was gonna come in to interrupt his birthday, because that's what MJF literally said. Like, I dare somebody to come there. So when I heard Jungle Boy's music, right, I was like, oh, why this guy? All right. So Jungle Boy comes in and he stands against one turnbuckle, and then all of a sudden, another music hits. It's the Sammy Guevara one, and then Sammy Guevara comes in.
I was like, oh, why?
That's when you were like, oh, why? Yeah, that's. Actually, I wasn't even a fan of that either, right? And then next guy comes, the next music hits. It's the Darby Allin. And then I'm also like, why? Why this guy? I don't like this guy. Stuff like that. So he stands on another turnbuckle. And basically, it was like a very, it was like a very simple procedure, like of how they handled it. So one guy starts talking, MJF starts talking, and then MJF gets interrupted. Then one guy talks and says his stuff, and then MJF talks, and then he gets interrupted, and then another guy talks. So that's the way it went. It was like a pattern. What did you think about the promos?
Well, I guess MJF had good lines, but I think Darby Allin was improved a lot in the mic. But like, I'm kind of like put off with the fact that it's going to be a 4-way. I understand, because you already had him go through in 1 hour. So how are you going to follow up with that? Naturally, you just put 3 guys against, which puts MJF at an advantage. But like, seriously, like, what did any of these guys, except for Jungle Boy, because at least beat Christian Cage, what has Sammy Guevara done to deserve a title shot, and what has Darby Allin done to deserve a title shot? And they're going to be booked strongly, which is where I don't think some of these guys shouldn't deserve that. But now they're going to have this 4-way match, and I'm like, man, they should have not done that.
These are the pillars of AEW. 4 pillars.
I get that, but 2 of those pillars have not had any credibility to warrant a title match. At least Jungle Boy. Go ahead.
Jungle Boy did, you said?
Jungle Boy at least beat Christian Cage, and he didn't lose a match. But Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, he just lost the TNT Championship, and now he's going for the World Championship.
I mean, even Jungle Boy though, I don't see him in the spot. I just don't like. Wait, you know more about AEW than I do. Did Jungle Boy ever win a TNT belt?
No, he didn't.
Then why the heck is he going all the way straight to the top? Like, what the heck?
Well, they do this where they get a certain amount of wins, and then they get challenged for whatever belt they want to. But at least Jungle Boy never lost a match.
Okay, fair enough. But overall, the promos for me were not that great. I mean, Jungle Boy is talking like Jungle Boy, right? Which is fine for what he is, I guess. Mm-hmm. I guess these are the best promos that each of them have ever done, though, because none of them are great for promos. My MJF is.
I didn't like Sammy. Huh? Sorry. I was going to say I didn't like Sammy because him and it was fucking Jungle Boy. That were like basically going complete meta. Sammy was like saying, I was just a bump guy, I was just a jobber. And then I proved myself. I was like, man, you kind of exposing
the business.
Yeah. And then Jungle Boy was talking about, you never wrestled at Dark, you never wrestled at Rampage, you only come here for the big stuff. And it's like, now you're kind of putting up Dark, Elevation, and Rampage. So why are you doing that? And then Darby Allin is the one that kind of cut a kind of okay promo. But
he also said something about WWE, basically. Like, there's all these wrestlers that want to leave the company on. They keep posting stuff on Twitter, and they want to leave the company. But I'm one of those that want to stay here and junk like that. Like, bruh, stop. Like, once again, they're bringing WWE in just to further. Like, I gotta say, all 3 of them had some sort of problem. Like, they each promo had some sort of issue. Like, they exposed the business in some ways. Each of them did. Like, I noticed that just now.
Yeah.
But I gotta say though, overall, like, looking at them in the ring, what did you think? Did you think that this is like main event level?
No, because like, first of all, none of these people have done anything to become stars, right? Even if we just talk about Jungle Boy, he actually got wins and like looks like a typical babyface. He's done nothing to be like given a world title shot, and like how can you see him as a star?
Mhm.
The second issue is that now MJ like, and this is where, and I think this whole promo encapsulates just the kind of difference MJ have with these three people, because MJF would never expose the business. But what have they done is like they're just showing that MJF is now facing with three idiots over here. That none of these people know how to work, and two of those people like Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara, they do stupid shit to hurt themselves and make everything else look phony. So it's like if it was just Jungle Boy, then MJF has had good matches with Jungle Boy. But these two, they'll do stupid stuff every day. Why are they in? And then in the four-way match, they have more reason to do so.
If you notice, like the three of them all share one thing in common: they're all flippies. Like
Yeah.
these are flippy guys that just do a bunch of flips, right? MJF is the only one that doesn't do any of that. Like MJF is like the only one that remains like at least he tries to be a heavyweight, right? And I'm gonna say this much though: I also think that by MJF standing next to these three, it kind of lowers his star power level. I mean, even though he doesn't have that much, to be honest with you, like nobody, not many people know about MJF outside of AEW. But I just like, okay, I'm gonna be real here, all right? I know people may not like this this set at all, but I think MJF is kind of overrated. Like he doesn't have the size, he doesn't have like the attraction that he thinks he is. Like he's not the attraction that he thinks he is. All right, so he is he's below 6 foot. He's below 6 foot. He doesn't he can do promos. He can wrestle. He's built himself well, right? But still,
Yeah.
he's kind of small, right? And I think all these guys are small, and it exposes the business of how AEW is. Like if these are the pillars, right? Then the standards of Tooney Khan are very low. None of them are like 6 foot. None of them.
And the major thing is MJF had at least Bryan Danielson, even though despite how he's worked, he still like knows how to wrestle, right? Ricky Starks is a little bit green, and we've talked about his match with Jericho, but at the very least, Ricky Starks still has some clue of what he's doing, and he can cut a promo. You talking about these three, and I'm saying Jungle Boy is a little bit better, but that's because the two people who are involved, they're complete idiots. Like they're all flippy, but two of those people actually hurt themselves a lot more, and they make everything else look hokey while they're doing that. So
that's very true. Yeah.
So it's like now MJF is like you said, he's getting dragged down, and he is, because now like he's not going to have a great match with these four people on a one-on-one if he can, because he has. But these four in a four-way, and when these people are actually going to go no limit and up their spots to 100, then yeah, it's going to be a terrible match.
You know, this may sound very boring because this is how I look at it. How I look at this match itself. MJF could just walk out of the ring and just stand in the corner and let these guys do all the stupid shit. Like,
yeah,
I could just see that, because he doesn't need to get involved with that. Like he's just he's like a completely different wrestler than them, right? And you're talking about Jungle Boy. Yeah, I get what you mean. Like he's got the wins to be here, but I also feel like he hasn't gone for like the TNT. Besides like the tag belts, right? He hasn't gone for like any singles belts. So Sammy Guevara and what would you call it? Darby Allin at least have won some singles belts before this. So that's my counter to that. And I also feel like he has a dull personality. Like his facials are non-existent. So if they did MJF versus Jungle Boy, I don't think it would have elevated any of them. I just feel like MJF works best with ex-WWE stars for some reason.
or at least people that know what to do. Like shit, now I can't remember a single guy whose experience there and is actually good. some of these, like they'll find someone. But yeah, like if he's involved with a guy like Jeff Jarrett, who, although I would not want to program between those two, at least Jeff Jarrett, or let's bring up Jay Lethal.
Yeah.
If he can have a match with Jay Lethal, then yeah, like he can have a great match because these two know where to put the limits on.
Yeah, but here's the
But-
problem. I'm gonna cut you
Yeah.
off right there. There's a problem here. All right, MJF is a heel. Jeff Jarrett is a heel. Jay Lethal is a heel.
Oh, I
So-
wasn't using them specifically. I said like a guy like those people, like the guy who knows what they're doing.
Okay, that makes sense. But here's the problem. Like, I mean, this is a big problem though. There isn't that many good faces out there that MJF can face and make
Yeah.
it look good. Make it look amazing.
That's the issue here.
So that is like, see, when you brought up Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, that made me think that, oh look, there aren't any credible faces. I mean, yeah, you got John Moxley, but I think they're turning heel as well.
Yeah, they're heels.
So yeah, the big problem is that Tooney Khan cannot build stars, right? So any star that is like, they need CM Punk so badly right now. It's not even funny.
Which leads up to the state of AEW because they really need CM Punk because they don't have any kind of baby face in here.
Mm-hmm.
And the other issue is, let's say if Punk comes, because Punk in himself can't save the show,
Yeah,
right? Even the show was not that good even when Punk was here.
I agree.
But like the what do you call it? But like after like CM Punk, who do they go with? Wardlow. After you've seen Wardlow do everything he's done, you want to see a match between MJF and Wardlow. Then they have no one, and that's like the crazy part is like they want to do a rematch between Bryan Danielson again, and they've already done the 1 hour thing. So what other obstacles MJF needs to do? Okay, 3-4 man wave, but after that, what else? CM Punk in Chicago, okay. Even though I don't think it would go to that long. He can face Hangman, but nobody wants to see Hangman.
Oh yeah, Hangman is definitely a option. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe Chris Jericho will come back and go for a world title, which will not do any favors for MJF.
But it will be heel versus heel, and Jericho winning a world title right now is not believable.
I don't want to see him on my TV, much less be in a main event program.
You know what? You mentioned how Daniel Bryan basically took a break. I think Jericho needs that break too. Please go with him.
The wrong guy took a break.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna say, okay, I did think about somebody. What about Omega?
He's fine, but can he have a match? Like, because besides the fact that Omega can't cut a babyface promo.
No, he can't.
Because he's really bad at promos.
No.
He's trying to make himself the most unlikable guy.
Yeah.
But let's say if he has a match with MJF, like, will he be doing, like, who's going to be taking in charge here? Omega should not be the one in charge.
In charge of what?
MJF, like, basically taking the lead in the match, like, basically calling the match.
Because his matches are not that good. You feel?
They go a little bit too overbooky. Like, remember, like, even if like let's talk about his match with Will Ospreay for a 2nd. His match with Will Ospreay was good, okay. But have you seen this kind of ridiculous thing that they were doing to each other?
Yeah.
Like one spot kind of made sense, but it was like when he hit a DDT at Ospreay in the turnbuckle, and that was when it like turned the tides on Omega's favor. But that's like a match-ending move right there. But Ospreay still survived, and then they were doing some other stuff with the table, which was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
he's kind of hokey, and if he what do you call it, he should not be the lead. He should not be the one leading the match. But Omega, I guess Omega should be the guy, but I don't want to see, like, I'm not too sure about that.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna give my opinion about Kenny Omega. And by the way, this is not like a whole review of the whole show. By the way, if you guys are thinking that, none. We're just giving our thoughts about some AEW stuff. So I think Kenny Omega. Okay, so I got into AEW because I heard about this guy named Kenny Omega. This guy was known to be one of the best wrestlers in the world, right? Actually, he is known as one. Like, Edge watched his match against this other guy from Japan, and basically Edge liked it, I mean, Edge is one of them. Like that said, that Kenny Omega matches are great. So the thing is that I haven't seen anything that backs up the hype of him. Like I see that he does a lot of theatrics. Can I say it? But in the match, but like I don't see anything special about him. Like he's a good, like I guess he's a good wrestler in a way where he can do great performance in a sense, where like he can do great moves, make him look nice and clean. Like that snap suplex thing he does is pretty sick. But that's about it. It's like I don't see any storytelling or anything like that. Like, and I agree with you. Like, his matches are usually overbooked, so there's a lot of false finishes, which is what I have an issue with majority of the wrestling matches in AEW. And I don't consider them like great. Yeah, they're allowed to do more stuff than the WWE people are, but still, WWE actually has some sort of formula that they go by, right? These matches have zero formula, and there's a lot of false finishes for no reason. Wrestlers kicking out of finishers is like a norm. So I don't know if I wanna see a match between Kenny Omega and MJF. Actually, I'd be rooting for MJF more than Kenny Omega if that was to happen. But still, I think it's an option because he has a fan following.
And but yeah, like that's just like the main event thing because there's not many guys there. Then we haven't even got like I'll get to the women division at last because there's a lot to say. Tag team division, they like because the whole thing got separated by the 6-man tag division. There's not many people in the air. Let's say if FTR wins, what people do they have to work with? They have no one. At least in 2020, they had a lot of people, but not here anymore.
No. The reason I think we talked about this earlier, but I think the reason that this is a big problem is because they have trios, and they got the regular tag team belts, right? So Tooney Khan now needs to find teams for trios. Trios belts are not even that good either because there aren't a lot of factions out there in AEW that are actually well built. Like look at WWE for a second, right? They got Judgment Day. They built up that faction so well, right? That's how you build a faction. These guys haven't built up a faction. WWE has two major factions: the Bloodline and
Judgment Day.
Yeah, Judgment Day. They have. So like, I'd rather have lesser factions with better build than have more factions with lesser build. And that's the problem with AEW. They have more factions than they have better builds. And on week to week basis, right? I feel like the programs are either hot or cold, and that has a lot to do with the fact that Tony's booking is so 50-50 and weird.
And it's so overbooked. Like everything, like he overcomplicates that doesn't need to be complicated. Like he's going for his post-pitch presentation.
Yeah.
And then everything's like so hokey. He did this rating thing that doesn't matter. And now, like, let's say Powerhouse House, what has he done to get a TNT championship match? And just like what did Sammy and Darby do to get a world championship match? And that's what the issue is. Like, why are they having this thing? And then like, let's get to the TNT thing because so this is a belt that's hot potatoed a lot. Like it went from, if we just talk about this year, it went from like Wardlow taking the belt from Scorpio Sky to Samoa Joe taking the belt from Wardlow to Darby Allin taking the belt from Samoa Joe, then Samoa Joe taking the belt back from Darby Allin, and then Wardlow taking the belt from Samoa Joe, and then the Powerhouse taking the belt from Wardlow. Like this belt, it means absolutely nothing. And I guess it's good. I want to see Powerhouse House get like a good push, but now since he's involved with QT Marshall, I'm not sure if he's going to get good booking. He needs to be his own act instead of with QT Marshall.
That whole sorry.
Go ahead.
We are talking about QT Marshall, but did you see that QTV thing they did? That was horrible.
Yeah. Why Viv on my TV again? And then And then the other championship. At least this was kind of still treated well. The international championship match that it's now called, the
Mhm,
All Atlantic belt that's now the international match,
mhm.
international championship. When was the last time it was defended in a pay per view?
I don't remember.
Why is Orange Cassidy going for a tag team belt when he had the international championship that he already has?
That's true.
Thought so.
That's true. But here's the thing I gotta say though about TNT and international, right? They're facing the same issue as trios championship and tag team. So you got two championships that are related to some sort of like, for example, in trios and tag team cases, like tag team, right?
Mhm.
Are really like the most common thing about them is the tag teams. These are tag team
Yeah.
matches, right? But with TNT and what you call it, international now, right? Because that's the reason I'm saying what you call it, because they changed the name, leveled them up or something. That was corny. That was a corny promo that Tooney Khan did about that, though. By the way,
Yeah.
yeah, like you look at that, they face the same problem. They're both single. They're both mid card single belts, right? So when you have two of them together, two of them on the same show, it's not like WWE where they got one in SmackDown and one in Raw. It's not like that. Yeah, like why don't they do that? Why don't they make Rampage something worthwhile by putting either TNT or International there, if they want to have two mid card belts? But yeah, they face the same issue because they're pretty much same belts. Because when they originally brought out the All Atlantic Championship, right? That was supposed to be defended in different promotions. That's how basically what's his name? Pac did it. That's how pretty much Pac did it. He went to different promotions and did matches there. You didn't see it every week. Like and then TNT was like your main mid card belt. So like, I'm not a big fan of that either. Like, you know, going to a different promotion and just defending the belt just to represent AEW. That's weird to me, right?
Well, like, how are you putting the belt over when you're having matches in somewhere that people can't even watch at? Like,
That's exactly what I mean.
and
So yeah.
good.
So ever since our boy Orange Cassidy got this belt, right? He's been defending that constantly in AEW, rather in Rampage or what you call it in Dynamite. And one of the biggest BS matches that I've ever seen in my life is when he beat 6 foot 10
7 foot guy.
so yeah, 6 foot 7 foot guy. Yeah, he beat a 6 foot 7 foot 6 foot 7 no 6 foot 7 guy in a wrestling match when he's a tiny dude. That was BS. Big Bill, he beat Big Bill. That was total BS. I don't know, that didn't follow logic at all, especially in a promotion that's all about wrestling. So I'm not a big fan of how they're treating OC right now, because he's treated like John Cena, Hulk Hogan, or something. Yeah, in this whole show alone, you saw how he got up, after he got hit by that gold thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, bro, he should not be getting up from that. Come on, not with that frame.
And then there's like the complete opposite of the TNT championship. Like if there's a belt that gets getting hot potatoed every day, there's a belt that's never changed hand, and that is the TBS championship. I don't like what's the whole thing with how long will they give Jade Cargill the twins until they realize enough is enough? Let's just give it to someone else.
She's 53-0, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad to shit on her because she's the one who's actually training, but it's like, what has like my god, she's running out of opponents because everyone in the women division doesn't have enough depth to have a secondary build. And then it's happening, and then it's like Jade Cargill there who's beating everyone for and like how you and they're now bringing some of these random people just to have her, like just to give her opponents to feed. But it's like, at this point, just take the belt from her. How long will they keep on extending this reign that really didn't deserve to be this long. It's already 1 year now.
No, I don't. I don't understand this push either. It's kind of like how they're doing with Hook. You know, Hook has like a championship too, and
Yeah.
both of them are basically treated as like a dominant force for some reason. And don't get me wrong, she has the look. She looks amazing. You know, she looks like someone that has some material. But when you watch her matches, obviously the matches look botchaversary. You know, so yeah, I'm not a big fan of like the push that she's getting. I think that championship needs a new champion because at this point it just looks like a championship that's made for her. I don't think you should give somebody this much of a push if they're just developing as a character and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, like I just feel like I want to talk about Hook for a second because so I go on this website called the Wrestling Forums, right? And over there I discuss wrestling, and I saw like I didn't see. I actually made a thread about Hook versus Dominic Mysterio, right?
Yeah.
And Dominic has improved so much over the time, right? I'm actually a fan of him, like the way he's doing his heel work as a character, and the way he sells, and the way he does like these little things in the match that make you go like, yeah, this guy has talent, this guy has charisma, you know. So I compared both of them, right? And at the time I compared them, they were nothing. Like they weren't anywhere. So what do you think about Hook? Like, because like Hook, in my opinion, has not moved the needle since he's been there.
So I think like Hook, I'll say good things about him first. I think he's a good wrestler, as in he I think because he has Taz telling him what to do, he can do a lot of these moves, and his wrestling's really good. But I think he works as a heel wrestler instead of this meme that they've made him very super powered, and because he's a meme, he can do anything. Everyone's afraid of this guy, and he doesn't even look that intimidating. And it's like, why? Like, they've bungled him up because then they had him team up with Danhausen, and things just got worse for him because then he was like a team with Jungle Boy, and then they're like, why aren't they just using him as this heelish wrestler that just like beating up people or like cheating his ways? Like, he has potential as a heel, but he's now a babyface and he's a meme. And that's what I've seen him. If he's like a complete meme, like, why is this guy being used the way he is when he has so much potential?
No, I do agree that I do see potential in him. I think that when he wrestles, he does some good wrestling holds and stuff like that. He adds a lot of intensity. He can throw good punches and stuff like that. But it's just that he doesn't have a character. That's the problem. He's just this machine that doesn't have any emotions, and he's supposed to look cool and stuff with that hair, that wacky hair. And also his build is kind of like the sort of character that he has, right? This tough looking guy. I think they're trying to make him look like Taz, but Taz looked like a tank. He doesn't look like a tank. He looks like a toothpick compared to him, you know? So he should be given a character that actually suits him. He looks like a miscast to me. Him coming inside of a ring, I remember like when he came inside of the ring, when there was Big Bill there. He's actually having a food with a firm right now, right? So yeah, there was like two taller guys in there than him, and he comes in and they run away. Like, I don't get it. What's so intimidating about him? He doesn't look that tough. So I'm not so. It's like similar to how they're doing. What's his name? They're dude. I don't remember these names sometimes. But he's from the Black Combat Club. Black Blood.
Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah, Wheeler Yuta. Yeah, like the way they casting Wheeler Yuta, they're making him look like this tough guy who can beat you up. Like, I look at it and I laugh at it. Bro, you're not fooling anybody.
Oh.
So that's the way I look at Hook. Like, they have done nothing with him. He's not interesting to me, sure, he can wrestle, but so what? And there's so many other wrestlers that can wrestle. Why am I supposed to think this guy's special? Is it just because he's holding a pretty belt of his father? Yeah.
So this is like because like what do you call it? Because you brought like I was not I completely forgot about this group, Blackpool Combat Club.
Mhm.
I've talked about I think when I did like a review on Revolution last year, and I saw like William Regal helping these two out, like Brand Danielson and John Moxley. I was like, they're going to completely derail Bryan Danielson's heel turn, which was the best thing going in AEW at that time, because he was a complete asshole, and he's beating up people, and he was loving it, and it was so fun to watch, and he was cutting good promos too. And then like because he's paired up with John Moxley is doing the most of the talking, and the whole group is supposed to be they're like this Cobra Kai people where they're beating up guys and they're too aggressive. But and like that is everything that Bryan Danielson's doing as a heel. And what they did is basically give the same thing to John Moxley, and John Moxley can't do anything that Bryan Danielson was doing. They're all baby faces because they're with Regal, and then they got Wheeler Yuta, who basically became an asshole, but he's the baby face and he's respectful. And I'm like, just like this whole group is like completely falling apart because it's if it was Bryan Danielson getting like a whole bunch of actually talented wrestlers and giving them and making them like aggressive, that could work.
Mhm.
But this team, like the way it happened, where they're baby faces, where they're respectful, but they're also kicking people's heads in and like putting like elbows in people's faces. Like you telling me these people and who are basically being complete dicks. This is the team that you're supposed to like see as like this is this the team that was working. And then they got Claudio in, and Claudio's and I've always felt like Claudio's not. I never really see Claudio as a baby. I've always seen him as a baby face because he's this like he's talented. He can do all the moves, but he can work too, and he can do flips. And he's like a nice guy, and he even has this like nice guy face. You telling me this like I've never really bought Claudio as a heel, and now they're basically pushing him as this heel, and like how can you believe Claudio, the most nicest guy ever, to be this aggressive guy? And they've not done that for me. And now because William Regal is gone, why is this group still continuing to exist? And now they're the heel. And I guess the only good thing is John Moxley's a heel now, so everything he says, I guess it makes sense now. But Claudio is a heel, and like, why is he with this group? Like, he came in as one of the flunkies of the Blackpool Combat Club, and I feel so bad for him because he deserves a soul. He's not as bad as what he was in WWE, but he deserves a lot more than this. And now Bryan Danielson's gone, and I hope he never returns to this group. Why is this group still a thing? Even if they're the heels now, this whole group is broken beyond repair. What's Blackpool about about people who are not even British? And I don't understand this. I don't like this group at all. I've never forgiven them for what they did to Brian, and I'm not liking. Neither of these people fit.
No,
John Moxley doesn't fit because this is supposed to be a Bryan Danielson-esque thing, and he's not an asshole that loves to, even though he likes to drink bones and eat blood. He doesn't fit this group because he's not. His thing looks hokey and he's not even technical. Wheeler Yuta, what else to you pretty much said everything I had to say about him. And Claudio's too nice to be in this group. He should be a babyface.
Okay, but here's the thing though. Both Wheeler Yuta and Claudio are both champions in ROH. So I'm curious, like if these are like ROH guys, right? Why the heck are they on AEW?
They should not started yet. I don't know.
Like, I mean, okay, look, Claudio is not just an ordinary person over there. He's a champion of ROH, but he looks like just like any other person. He looks like a mid-carder to me.
He should be like he should not be a flunky. He should be on the same level of footing as Moxley because he's a champion. Moxley's not, and he's way better. Like he can do like he can wrestle, and I don't like the when he's like doing the elbows and the storms, but I think his uppercuts look vicious. Why is he not doing that instead of trying to copy Danielson and Wheeler Yuta? I don't know what to say about him. He's small. He's not aggressive. He doesn't even look intimidating. His promos are garbage. His wrestling doesn't deserve the kind of push he's getting. If they put Hook in there and actually have Hook as the heelish guy, I can take that, but not Wheeler useless. And
Right.
they were talking about putting Daniel Garcia in there. It's like, what? Why would you do that? Neither of those people fit.
Overall, this whole group should be disbanded, and I also think that Daniel Bryan, I'm going to call him. I don't care what you say. I'm going to call him that. He kind of looks like he's not even in this group at this point because he hasn't interacted with them for so long now, and he's left, and they haven't even talked about him or thought about him. I wonder where Daniel Bryanson is. You know, they never thought about him. Like once again, look at the bloodline, right? They all care about each member of the team. Well, Daniel Bryanson was a part of their team. Now what happened? Where is he? Nobody asks. I don't know. This group is messed up. So
There's one thing I'm starting to worry because I just had this realization.
Mhm.
Since the Blackpool Combat Club are heel and they're facing the Elite and Hangman Page because this is what it's leading to. They're like one guy short. So who are they going to bring in? They're going to bring in Bryan Danielson.
My
So
God.
there's a chance that they'll have a 4-on-4 match between Hangman Page and the Elite and Bryan Danielson and the BCC. But I don't know. I don't like
Blood
this
and Guts, probably.
Oh God, no! They're really going to kill Bryan Danielson.
Okay.
Oh, but yeah, now the most important issue I had because I don't like. I think the biggest issue I had with this is the women's division, and the reason I didn't talk about the build-up because, as you said, they're doing this WWE thing, and it's like, WWE has a lot more men in there which are from WWE, or AEW has a lot more men in there which are from WWE, and they don't do this WWE versus AEW bullshit because, like, first of all, you're basically putting over one promotion, you're referencing one promotion that you don't need to mention. The second issue is the thing about these guys is like, what do you call it? The thing is, when you're in AEW, you're in AEW. I don't understand this thing of, yeah, you're not from our group, you're from somewhere else. Yeah, somewhere bigger and somewhere where there are more professionals. None of these people like Britt Baker, let's talk about. She's the only decent one, and I think Jamie Heat is great too. But who else do they have? Riho, Hikaru Shida. They're the AEW originals that we should be invested in. And then they had, what do you call it? And like AEW has more professional, like those WWE women from there are more professionally trained than AEW women are. And most of these people are over than AEW people are. They have no one. Why are they doing this with the and I've talked about they have no depth in the division. Why are they doing this with why are they doing this WWE versus AEW guys with the women's division? And the other problem is they've done this at the expense of Soraya. I don't want and I've said I don't think she's bad, but her booking has not been good. I don't think she's a waste of money because when she came in, there was a lot of goodwill for her. A lot of people wanted to see her wrestle, and a lot of people liked her. And then Britt Baker fucking started cutting a promo about Soraya being an ex-WWE guy, and she's basically trying to take our spot and everything. And you turning the people on Soraya, who should not be the heel in this program because she has goodwill. And they've turned her a heel. And then there's Toni Storm, a woman who got screwed out of her title, and now she's a heel because she's the WWE guy too. There's Ruby Soho, the woman who was actually She not only is like could she cut babyface promo, but she's lost many a time that she should be the sympathetic babyface. But here they've basically not only have they put her with the Soraya group, but they've also done this thing where even though she's the WWE guy, Britt Baker was like accepting Ruby Soho to a point where it makes Britt and Jamie look like an idiot when they turned on her, when she turned on her, she turned on them. And the most simple thing that they could have done is have Britt Baker finally get jealous of Jamie Hayter and have her like challenge Jamie Hayter for the title, and have Jamie Hayter leave the Britt Baker group instead of turning Britt Baker, the most natural heel out there, into a babyface. Because people want to root for Jamie, nobody wants to root for Britt. And all they've done is basically ruin not single-handedly derail 6 women that I can think of. And instead of Toni Storm going for the TBS championship, they're going. She's in this heel group, which is not at all working because they're spraying L's like the NWO. Ruby Soho, just like I've given up on her being a world champion at this point. They're not making her women's champion, and they have Riho. What is their division is so bad. They can't book anyone they can't book any woman, and like they don't have any talented wrestlers. They're not telling these talented wrestlers what to do. You have Jade Cargill doing her own thing, completely separate from the the women's champion. What are they doing? I really don't get this. Like, this whole division sucks. I don't know who's booking this. I think Kenny Omega was booking it, but now apparently it's Tooney Khan. But this division needs a proper rebranding. They're not doing anyone favors here. They've completely ruined Soraya, who should not be a woman who took a long time to come back to wrestling. They've ruined her. They've ruined the whole thing with Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, because all the instances where Jamie Hayter should have turned on her, she hasn't turned on her. And then we have the AEW versus WWE thing, which is completely it's done with the wrong people and it's done with the wrong division, and it shouldn't be happening anyway, because it makes the whole thing look stupid and fake. But yeah, it's not even getting over, so why are they still doing this? I'd have no idea. But that's like, this division needs to, if this division goes away, I wouldn't complain.
I wouldn't either, but they have to keep it because, people want diversity. So that's one of the ways to have it. But it's just that they're not booking it very well. And overall, like, the women division itself is, like you said, it's pretty pointless at this point. And the whole storyline they're doing is that they're promoting WWE again when WWE never asked for it. Whereas WWE is not even putting anything on AEW at all. Like, if you look at the Cody storyline, right? Cody versus Roman, they could have easily talked about AEW, but they never did that.
It was subtle references. The outsider coming to take his throne, yeah.
Yeah, there was like subtle references, but they weren't saying, like AEW and junk. It wasn't so obvious. But these guys just need to continuously do it.
And lastly, I just want to say that these are your baby faces, the one who is doing this tribalistic thing where this is our turf, you can't come to our home, like you can't come to our tree house, you're not invited. Mm-hmm. Like, these are your baby faces, the one who are telling people who they could accept and who they couldn't. I don't like this.
I don't like it either. The main event was I think there was like 3 different teams or something, right? JS versus Kenny Omega's team, Elite, and then you had House of Black.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch this match?
No, because I was like working and I didn't get the time. Like, I've not watched AEW Dynamite these days. I just catch up with the reading on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
watching the results and everything, but I don't watch Dynamite these days.
This was in Winnipeg, so Jericho and what's his name, Kenny Omega got huge pops there. You know, but overall, was the match decent? Nah, I like once again, it's you got three different teams, and it's just like a cluster.
9 people in the same team.
Yeah, nine people. Yeah, and then in the end, and then during the match, there was like a scuffle going on in the back with JAS. No, that's not JAS. BCC, right?
Yeah.
And and the dark the Dork Order, yeah. Which led to like a cliffhanger ending with them all kind of brawling it out and stuff. So Hangman may end up being inside of like the Elite, I guess. The Elite will try to help him and stuff. It's like he's leaving one house to another house. Hangman is just being thrown around like a ragdoll at this point.
He's like, what do you call it, leaving the group that accepted him for all his faults to a group that was shitting on him just a year or 2 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of funny to me. Like, I know, like, I gotta admit, I'm not a big fan of AEW these days, and I think I see its potential as I think I see its ceiling. It's not gonna go that high. It's only gonna cater to like the what you call it, the hardcore fans. And actually, if I look at the reports, right, the buy rate wasn't that good for Revolution.
I mean, yeah, because like here's the thing. The AEW was only working because WWE was under Vince McMahon's regime, and people who were so put off with Vince McMahon and his ideas for wrestling came to AEW hoping for something else. And a lot of people were like, because it wasn't McMahon like Vince McMahon like controlling it, they were rooting for it. But now that Triple H has done, and Triple H already has the credibility of a guy who knows what he's doing. Like once that happened, and like WWE's quality changed a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is more wrestling centered, even though they're still doing this like hokey stuff, and the stuff with Bray Wyatt just does not clicking with for me.
Yeah.
Like WWE has done a lot better because they're actually now doing what AEW should have done, and a lot of their angles are making sense. And the bloodline thing is the best thing in wrestling right now.
It definitely is, yeah.
Like, and even if you want to talk about, like, let's talk about the Intercontinental like championship in like, I'll call him Walter because that's what I refer to him as.
That's fine.
Walter is having the great, like, one of the best Intercontinental reigns in the entire world, like in the history.
Mm-hmm.
And he had like a lot of great matches to boot. One of them was with Sheamus, and then with like even his stuff with Ricochet and Braun Strowman was pretty good. And you have the United States Championship scene, which is actually means something because it's treated as a main event belt because the actual world title is somewhere else, so it's treated as a main event thing. Seth Rollins, a guy who's losing every pay-per-view matches, is actually one of the best things in WWE right now because he's so fun to see. And the Judgment Day thing you said, I think it did more favors for Rhea Ripley and Dominic, but yeah, like the Judgment Day thing is pretty good too.
No, it did, but it did do it for them. I think those two are like the best part about it. But the thing is that the other two guys are good as well. And they like, here's the thing: the Judgment Day needed something different, right? When Edge left it, they kind of looked confused, but they needed something. When they got Rhea Ripley in, and then they got Dominic in, who expected Dominic to be this good? Nobody. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
I think it gives Judgment Day like a fresh look to it. It's still Judgment Day to me is still fresh because of Dominic. You know, I'm not done with his whole prison thing that he talks about. It's so funny. He's like easily one of the best parts about the shows for me because of like how he is. Like, look, he has the height. He's about 6 foot, right? His father never had that height, so I see a lot of potential in this guy.
And WWE has consistently do like two bangers. Like the Royal Rumble was pretty good,
Mhm,
but the thing after like the main event of the Royal Rumble after that was like
mhm.
the most great, like the best thing they put. And then they had a match with Sammy versus Roman, and even though Sammy lost, even though he was going to face the Usos for the tag team belt, at least they're kind of doing it in a way which makes all of these people look relevant and still keeps this whole thing going. I thought it would end, but it didn't.
Okay, you want?
And
Sorry.
but like what I said, like is like even at an elimination chamber, which was kind of tough considering the fact that they had Sammy lose in favor of Cody, which they should have done if you ask me. There was problems where you don't know if they're going to root for Cody, but then they did it in a way which makes everyone do something. It wasn't like a terrible follow up after that. It was a good follow up.
No, I think they made the right decision of making Cody win that, because Cody, in my opinion, is more marketable than Sami Zayn would be. I mean, Sami Zayn is doing a fantastic job with what he's doing. I gotta say, Sami Zayn has improved so much. He was like a job guy. Now he's actually a dude that looks like a main eventer to me, or upper mid card. You know, like I feel so much for him. I get this Daniel Bryan vibes. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel for this guy. He makes me feel. His promos are great. His acting. I mean, look, I gotta say, like I may be sounding like a WWE mark right now, but they have done a fantastic job with their product. Um, I did want to mention this though. So you watched AEW since the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I hear this a lot from AEW fans and some WWE fans. They say that people will eventually get sick of Cody. Do you agree?
Well, so I like here's the thing, and I'm not saying Tony Khan is to blame because it's completely to Cody Rhodes' fault. Cody Rhodes is talented and he can do like he has like everything in the makings of a main eventer. His problem is his ideas are terrible. So if you have him in like a company like WWE, a company that's managed by like an upper management and they're telling him what to do and what not to do, Cody in that system can thrive because Cody does scripted promos. Even in AEW, he writes his promo and then he does it, you know, which is the same thing WWE does. But Cody's thing is he can articulate his voice, but he still does scripted promos. If you put him in charge of WWE, especially under Triple H's regime, Cody can thrive because Cody Rhodes is what do you call it? Like yeah, and like Cody can thrive there because Cody's like managed by a guy who knows about wrestling and has like wrestled at a higher level, but he has a bunch of team that will help him out. Cody in AEW was completely terrible. They might not root for Cody as much later on because I have some issues with Cody's WWE booking too. But in AEW, Cody was in charge of his own stuff, and when he's in charge of his own stuff, people were like starting to turn on him. It doesn't help with the fact that he was not fully committed to this thing that he created. So like people, I see why Cody was hated because he was not doing himself any favors in WWE. It's changed because he has people telling him what to do. Now, as for people turning on Cody, they haven't. And if you ask me, if they turn on Cody, they're complete idiots because I see like Wolf was not here, but Wolf was talking about how Sammy should have won. But I feel like if let's say ended up winning in the Elimination Chamber or at WrestleMania, you're doing it at the expense of Cody Rhodes, who should be the one to beat Roman Reigns. Because Sammy has, even though he's done amazing, he's not built himself enough credibility and didn't get himself strong wins to be able to warrant a world title run. Cody has. He had a great match with Seth Rollins with one shoulder and with one arm, and he has not done anything terrible since coming to WWE. And yeah, maybe people will turn on him when all the goodwill with him dies, but that goes for everyone. I don't think they're going to hate on him as much as they hate on him in AEW because of the fact that like the only thing that can happen to him is the fact that people will not react to him anymore. But that will depend on Cody and how he carries his program. But in AEW, it was a lot of things that will not happen in WWE, which is where I don't think they'll turn on him. Will they stop reacting to him as much as they do right now? Yes, but that goes for everyone. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin was not bulletproof. Like once the Rock started getting too popular, people weren't reacting to Stone Cold Steve Austin that much, and because they loved the Rock, they loved the Rock more, and that goes for everyone. Daniel Bryan, the most over thing in WWE in 2013 and 2014, people stopped reacting to him when he came back in 2018 because at that point in time, AJ Styles was there and he was booked horribly. So I don't think it's the and Kofi Kingston was getting popular too. When AJ Styles came, he was the most popular babyface in 2016, 2017, and whatnot. Do they react to him? Absolutely not. Same goes for Edge. So yeah, people may not support Cody as much as they are right now, but that doesn't mean that they're going to turn on him, especially if they don't do anything Cody has done to himself in AEW.
Right. So I think he's been doing a fantastic job. I didn't really follow him in AEW because when I got back into wrestling, he was basically main eventing. He was a main eventing. He just came back in WrestleMania, which was like last year. So I really don't know what sort of persona he played over there. I did look at some clips and I saw what is this guy doing? But overall, his presentation has been fantastic. He looks like a main eventer. I'm a big fan of his theme song. I love the way he has marketed himself, and I do see a main event mega star in this company.
That my last thing I was going to say. If there's one thing I would take away is that a lot of the Dusty references, because Cody, I think in one of the Royal Rumble scrums talked about how he wanted Triple H to see him for himself, but then he's doing this thing where he's constantly bringing up Dusty Rhodes to get people to root for him, and that's they could do away with that, at least tone it down a little bit. But other than that,
I get what you mean. I think, but I think they have kind of toned it down. But the reason they bring in Dusty is because this whole rivalry is based on that. Because Dusty chose Roman Reigns over Cody. It's kind of like Naruto thing. Naruto, this kind of reminds me of Naruto versus Sasuke because you're you know about that whole thing. Naruto versus Sasuke were like brothers, but not really. They had some sort of connection. Okay. I see Cody in Naruto shoes where he needs to prove himself to show that to show that he is better than Roman. Even though, even if he wins, it's not gonna prove that because Roman is honestly a great superstar. I'm a big fan of Roman, but still, that's something. If Cody beats Roman, he's going to be the first Rhodes to actually win a world championship, and he's going to be the first. He's going to be from his family alone, he's going to be a megastar. He's going to be known as a megastar. Even though his father was a megastar, but still, I think this is going to do a lot for him if he wins. And
I hope he does.
And this is the best way for Roman to lose too, because he can't hold that championship forever.
Well, that's the thing, because he's held that belt since 2020, and he's at the top since 2020. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you should just give the ball to someone else, because here's the thing: Roman, this 1 year that he's doing, except for the bloodline stuff, he faced Brock again, he faced Kevin Owens again. He faced Drew McIntyre, where I think Drew should have won. But I always think that Roman should have held that belt till WrestleMania. But I don't. After this, they need to take the belt of Roman now, because it's getting too long now, and I don't think it should go longer than WrestleMania.
Not only that it's getting too long. I think at this point Roman is so good that he doesn't need the championship belt to be relevant.
Yeah.
He's carried it, made the championship look so great that now that he can give it to Cody Rhodes, who's basically built up as one megastar, right? And like you said, that if they actually continue booking Cody like they are, by taking away some of the Dusty Rhodes stuff, which I don't think he's going to continuously do, right? I think that he's going to eventually tone that down. I think they can. They got a star. They got to start here, and I think Cody Rhodes does make WWE better in a sense, because Roman Reigns was a heel. He was not a babyface. But Cody Rhodes is a babyface, so him taking charge, being the face of the company for a little bit till they develop like Theory or something.
And lastly, like I like I don't know like I think Sami Zayn should be the world champion too because of how over he is, but not at WrestleMania because it might mess up everything. At SummerSlam he can do that, but not at WrestleMania. But he needs to build credibility too for himself.
No, I think Sami Zayn will continues to be, one of the mainstays after this. Even after the Bloodline thing, some people think that he won't be. They think that he'll become a founder again. But no, I think Sami Zayn has proven that, if he's given the opportunity, he can take it with both hands and make it big. So definitely, I'm really impressed by him. I'm really okay. So going back to AEW, this is the difference between AEW and WWE is that they know how to build stars. WWE, AEW doesn't. They have a proper structure, and the scrums after the matches, right, are much better in WWE in my opinion. Like you don't have you don't have AAA sitting with some superstar every time.
Like they're not they're actually not shoot like WWE scrums are not actually shoots. They're done in a way where they're not actually shoots. What they're doing is like they still keep it within kayfabe while still keeping it real. What AEW does is basically the shooting, and then it's not even like a shoot scrum. What they're doing is they have a bunch of journalists who are not even journalists, and they tell quote and then they talk about how great AEW Revolution was. So it's like none of these people are even asking any tough question, and it's supposed to be a shoot scrum where they're telling the inner workings of the business. But the other thing I was going to say is that's the reason why Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns worked, because it had a great build up. AEW needed matches to be good in itself to have that's what they're depending on. And that's the issue, because Bryan Danielson versus MJF was only hampered by bad booking beforehand. If they built up Bryan Danielson as a credible guy to face MJF and not have him lose 2 shots at the world title, or at the very least be the one to hold the world title at some point, or at the very least acknowledge the fact that he failed at those 2 times and how he's not done any good since coming to AEW. This could have worked, but the way it happened, it kind of hurt the match. And then the other thing with these people is they don't have any control on what they're doing. So AEW just sucks right now. And I don't think even if CM Punk comes back, I think he's just one man. And now he's back and Bryan Danielson is in, and that's weird. So I don't think, and people actually want CM Punk back, and that's saying something. Like a guy who unprofessionally not shitted on the company, but a guy who was completely unprofessional in the scrum, which even I acknowledge, me as a Punk fan, they want that guy back now because the whole show sucks.
Because he was the only star they had, and only one that basically kept his credibility. And plus, I think behind the scenes he was very good. Hey, I think we've talked enough about this. What do you say we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap this up. AEW Revolution was good, but they need to do the before the build up and the follow up better. But yeah, this Revolution, it was okay. The only match that sucked for me was Moxley versus Hangman. The other matches were either so and so or not something worth caring about. But yeah, the 3 matches were actually good, which is a big thing for AEW these days. So, and they had a great main event. So, but yeah, they the follow up was terrible. This company is not doing good. They need people to tell Tony what to do instead of him telling other people what to do. And they need to have wrestlers toned down with what they're doing, because it just hurts the other guy. So, other than that, Revolution was really good. AEW is not very good. And that's my concluding line. What about you?
First off, I'm really glad to actually do this podcast with you. It was pretty fun. We talked about a lot of topics that I felt like were some things that we needed to talk about. And as a fan these days, as a wrestling fan,
Hmm.
I've been enjoying WWE a lot more. I do hope that AEW does a better themselves, because having two strong companies is better than one. But at the moment, I see AEW as a joke, and I don't see them improving to the point where they're gonna get newer fans at all. And there are times where I don't know what the heck is going on, because there's a lot of wrestlers out there that I don't follow, because I don't follow everything single wrestling thing, because I got other things to do, right? Besides just
Yeah.
follow wrestling. So yeah, I didn't enjoy Revolution as much, and I'm not enjoying Dynamite as much. They just have so many issues within them that it's making me hard to enjoy it. But the only times I enjoy it is when I'm laughing at some of the stupid stuff I see. And unfortunately, right now it's a circus to me. But who knows? In the future, it'll either get better, or we won't see another company.
I hope so too. Well, so I like thank you, Natsu, for joining me. If you like this stream, leave a like and subscribe for more awesome content. I don't think I'll be doing any more streams unless something happens, and I might do. But I think the next thing will come out of me, and I know Natsu doesn't know this, but it's like the next thing that will come out of me from is probably the Critical Geek video that I'm working on. It's on editing stage, and it might take some time, but um, I think the next stream I'll do is probably on Double or Nothing. But that's like what 2 months right now. So, but yeah, like Critical Geek, I'm still working on that video. Don't you worry. It's on editing. Everything's almost done now. So be prepared. So, anyways, see you later, people. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining.